Cet appel, s'il vous plaît, Madame le greffier.
Monsieur le sénateur Gorst. Monsieur le sénateur Farnham.
Présent.
Madame le sénateur Ferguson. Monsieur le sénateur Lefondre.
Présent.
Madame le sénateur Valois.
Présente.
Madame le sénateur Moore.
Présente.
Monsieur le sénateur Pallet.
Présent.
Monsieur le sénateur Mezek.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Hélier.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Clément.
Présent.
Madame la connétable de Saint-Laurent.
Présente.
Madame le connétable de Saint-Sauveur. Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Brelade.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Grouville.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Sainte-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Ouen.
Présent.
Madame le connétable de Saint-Martin.
Présente.
Madame le député Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Southern. Madame le député de Grouville. Monsieur le député Lewis.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Tadier. Monsieur le député Higgins.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Masson. Madame le député Pinel.
Présente.
Monsieur le député de Saint-Martin. Monsieur le député de Saint-Bonne.
Présent. Présent.
Madame le député Dublay.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Labbé. Monsieur le député Wickenden. Monsieur le député de Saint-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Truscott.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Young.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Ash.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Morel. Monsieur le député Guida.
Présent.
Monsieur le député de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Monsieur le député de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le député de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Madame le député Le Hegara.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Ayer.
Présent.
Madame le député Perchard.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Ward.
Présent.
Madame le député Alves.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Pamplin.
Présent.
Madame le député Gardner.
Présente.
Le doyen.
Notre aide soit au nom de Dieu qui a fait les cieux et la terre. Amen. Seigneur Dieu, Père éternel et tout-puissant, qui a établi le gouvernement et la puissance de la terre, pour le règlement et pour la conduite du peuple, et qui nous a commandé d'avoir toujours pour but la gloire de ton saint nom. Nous te prions qu'il te plaise de donner à cette assemblée le don de conseil et de prudence, d'unir le cœur et les affections de tous ceux qui la composent, et de les conduire tellement toi-même par ton Saint-Esprit que toute l'heure de libération et ton accompagné de la bénédiction réussissent au bien-être et au soulagement du peuple qui ont de plus de commettre à le soin. Car nous t'en prions en nom et par les mérites de ton Fils bien-aimé Jésus-Christ, notre Seigneur, que nous a enseigné de t'invoquer en disant: Notre Père, qui est aux cieux, ton nom soit sanctifié, ton règne vienne, ta volonté soit faite dans la terre comme au ciel. Donne-nous aujourd'hui notre pain quotidien, et nous pardonne nos offenses, comme nous pardonnons à ceux qui nous ont offensés. Et ne nous envoie pas en tentation, mais délivre-nous du mal, car à toi la reine, la puissance et la gloire, au siècle des siècles. Amen.
Monsieur le sénateur Gorst.
Présent.
Madame le Sénateur Ferguson,
Présente.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Sauveur,
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Southern,
Présent.
Madame le Député de Grouville,
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Tadier, Monsieur le Député Masson,
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Martin, Monsieur le Député Labbé,
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Wickenden, Monsieur le Député Morel.
Présent.
L'Assemblée est un nom, Monsieur le Président.
Sir, you're muted.
Thank you very much indeed. Les États sont constitués. I would like to welcome His Excellency to the virtual sitting this morning. There are a number of subordinate actions under B, a number of matters presented or laid under C. The following matters have been lodged under D. Draft Wildlife Jersey Law 2002 P110, Second Amendment, lodged by the Minister for the Environment. Residential properties in the waterfront development, P165 Amendment, lodged by the Council of Ministers. Draft COVID-19 Island Plan Jersey Regulations, P168, lodged by the Minister for the Environment. That's an amendment. 8 Park at Lake Hennevé Sports Centre, a P1 Amendment, lodged by the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture. Draft States of Jersey Amendment number 9 law, lodged by the Privileges and Procedures Committee, P3. Jersey Overseas Aid Commission, reappointment of commissioners, lodged by the Minister for International Development, P4. Improvements to road safety, lodged by the Connétable St Martin, P5. Draft road traffic number 65 Jersey regulations, lodged by the Minister for Infrastructure, P6. Controller and Auditor General Board of Governance, appointment of chair and members, lodged by the Chief Minister, P7. Draft termination of pregnancy amendment number 2 Jersey law, lodged by Deputy Doublé, P8. There is nothing under E, so we come on to F, which is appointment of ministers, committees and panels. In accordance with Standing Order 117, the Assembly is due to appoint a new Minister for Education. Members have received notice of the Chief Minister's nomination. Chief Minister, would you like to make the nomination?
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm delighted to nominate Deputy Masson for the position of Minister for Education, sir.
Sorry to interrupt, so I did put something in the chat regards a question for you regards written questions. I do apologise.
Deputy Ward, I was going to take that when we got to questions.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
If you're looking for a ruling on it, I'll have to consider it over the lunch at least. So
It's more procedural, so sorry, I just wasn't sure when it fits in. Sorry.
no, I was going to deal with it when we got to questions, Deputy. Thank you. Very well. Is the nomination seconded?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other nominations? If there are no other nominations, then I invite Deputy Masson to speak for up to 10 minutes, after which there is a question period of up to 20 minutes. Deputy Masson.
Thank you, sir, and I'll just bring up my speech. Thank you, sir, and I'd like to thank members for their support. And just for the benefit of the media, as I've been elected, I automatically cease being Minister for Housing and Children, although the Chief Minister has committed to transferring by order the remit of Children's Minister across in line with the Children Commissioners and others' recommendations. Members will have read and understood the standing orders around this, and I can confirm that Madam Jackie Weaver has no authority here. Thank you, sir. Members will be aware that I have served as a member Vice Chair and Chair of the Education and Home Affairs Scrutiny Panel. Our suspension review resulted in increased provision for children with autism. The review into special educational need triggered the creation of the Parent Carer Forum, which provides the department with a coordinated voice for children and families who have special educational needs. By providing robust and evidence-based reports. We have reverse cuts to the Education Department in the States Assembly, and by persistently reviewing higher education funding, it triggered the last government to reduce the current scheme, which has resulted in around 20% more students pursuing higher education. So I believe this shows my dedication in this area of policy. I was honoured to be asked to be Senator Valois' Assistant Minister and would like to take this opportunity to thank her for her commitment to education. Members will be aware, as a ministerial team led by Senator Valois, we have achieved over £40 million of funding over 4 years extra to the department through the Independent School Funding Review. This set out the vision to have a world-class education system. We have achieved alongside our colleagues in external relations, the UK agreeing to class Channel Island students as home students when applying for university fees, open bracket, though there are some exceptions, close bracket. I'd like to thank officers from both departments for what has been an unfairness for a long time. While serving as Assistant Minister for Health with the team, we achieved funding for the Mental Health Nurse Training Programme and also for Senior Nursing Programme skills, which we all know our community so desperately needs. So whilst I could list many things that I'd like to achieve as Education Minister, we also have to be realistic about the time left in this term and what can be achieved. The Economic Recovery Group has already identified funding to support skills and training to support islanders post-pandemic, and this will help marry many of the commitments in the government plan to develop the retraining strategy. Retraining strategy will be one of my top priorities. As we all know, the pandemic has hit young people hard, and many will not have the same opportunities to have, say, the summer or weekend jobs that they might have to put into their CVs. I've been there, and I know when applying for jobs, you can be in that situation where if you don't have the experience, you can't get a job, but then no one is prepared to give you the experience. It seems to me that we need to quickly develop schemes for internship, apprenticeship, and training opportunities, even if only for short periods, through both the public and private sector, in order to support our young people, in order to gain the skills of work, and also being able to to demonstrate that on their CVs, which will open the road to their futures. As we know, the department has already begun the education reform programme. Members approved the funding towards that in the government plan. There are many strands within that area, and I would just like to take a moment to focus in on one of the recommendations which the department has already started on, which is the inclusion review. Now, as members recall, when I stood for Minister for Housing and Children, I spoke about how I am dyslexic and dyspraxic, so I have a keen interest in the inclusion review. And whilst that doesn't only focus on special educational needs students, it also incorporates other aspects, such as children with who might need emotional behavioural support, who might have English as an additional language. But it's all wrapped up in that crucial bit of work, and that's also something which will require great attention from the Education Minister. Of course, there are other key things within the funding education reform programme. These will include the Teacher Excellence Fund. This is about investing in our local teachers in order to provide the highest quality of teaching that we can. There is also, of course, extra funding within that to support the well-being and mental health of students within schools. And as I've spoken about, this SEN support, additional educational need support, and other various aspects within that programme. So it's a very exciting time to be involved within the Education Department. Thank you, sir. Members will also be aware that the Early Years Policy Development Board still need to publish their report, and so that is something which will also be a top priority, as we know that the recommendations within that report need to be considered by the Assembly and by Council Ministers where appropriate, and the recommendations need to be considered holistically. As we all know, sir, whether it's the 1001 Days programme, the other aspects about investing in early years, that putting money towards the early years, the evidence all shows that it is the best outcome for our children, whether that to be with their social, emotional, mental, educational health. all of that should be noted, and that supporting early years is one of the best investments any government can make. One small item which I think does need some attention within, say, the next 6 months, and that is working with the Privileges and Procedures Committee to develop a political education programme. As we know, obviously, we are going to, if everything goes to plan, have significant change to our electoral system, and it's important that we develop age-appropriate teaching materials in order to supplement the PSHE curriculum. Sir, I'd like to thank all staff in the Children, Young People and Education and Skills Department for their commitment throughout this pandemic. It goes without saying that these times have been tough on all of us, but whilst there is some light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccine programme, the role and demands of the department will only increase, and we will have to supplement our recovery curriculum so that our young people are not left behind as a result of the pandemic. I thank members for their attention and look forward to their questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much indeed, Deputy. There is now a period of 20 minutes available for questions. Senator Mason.
Thank you, sir. The candidate will have had sight of the school funding review. Could he let us know if, as Minister-elect, there will be any recommendations in that report which he will not be proceeding with?
Thank you, sir. The supplementary reports, recommendations within that report do request the Minister and the Council of Ministers to consider other areas. I think it is the best route forward is to take that report to the Council of Ministers to see what recommendations are best to proceed with. So that's how I would tackle that issue.
Supplementary, sir. If he's interested enough to act as Education Minister, he'll surely have an idea of which recommendations he thinks may not be worth pursuing at this point. Is he going to push for all of the recommendations to be pursued, or does he look at some of what's been proposed and think that there isn't enough mileage to be worth pursuing and instead should focus on other areas?
Thank you, sir. It's a good question. There are controversial recommendations within that review, as the Senator will know. We know, for example, anything that should involve restructuring the fee-paying sector would be highly controversial and may not be worth extending energies on. On the other hand, we know that, for example, the inclusion review is actually being cried out for to pursue. But that's why I want to take it to the Council of Ministers to get that political soundings, to know exactly where the rest of the Council feels, to know where the energies in bringing forth those recommendations should really lie.
Conor Thompson-Hellyer.
Thank you, sir. Would the Deputy agree with me that with the planned increase in the number of housing units in St Helier, there is an urgent need to review the ability of the town primary schools to meet the anticipated demand? And will he tell me and the Assembly what his plans are to do that, in particular with regard to the facilities at Rouge Bouillon School, which are already in a pretty dire state? Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, sir. As I'm sure the Constable will know, previous to this, whether it's in written or oral questions, I've made the case for extending Rouge Bouillon School. I think they are a key player in the old police station site. I think that it is absolutely a key priority that the Education Minister make a claim to that site, because I did have the opportunity very recently walk around Rouge Bouillon School. There are whilst the school is safe, there are significant issues to do with the estate there, and it does require a significant amount of investment. Now, whilst that is already in the Education Capital rolling programme going forward, the Constable is absolutely right that that issue needs to be addressed. The other aspect of is there extra capacity required within the town schooling system? Yes, it is. Officers have already highlighted that as a policy area that needs to be developed with our colleagues within the infrastructure department. So it is something which is already on in the work programme of the Education Minister.
A supplementary, please, sir. When does the Deputy plan to come back to the Assembly with a statement about the capacity of the town primaries going forward? Will there be a paper or a proposition brought to the States this year, for example?
Thank you, sir. I would need to talk to officers about the practicalities of that, but I am quite happy to produce a report to the States Assembly regarding capacity that's currently exists within our town schools.
Thank you. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. I congratulate the Minister. Can I say the school funding review, which costs the government around £217,000, and I believe has been to the Council of Ministers. Can I ask the Minister his view on whether the idea that the private schools will need greater autonomy, which would include potentially means testing support for fees rather than offering subsidised fee-paying education as a universal benefit, is something that the Minister would consider, support or reject? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So there are two elements there. One is about autonomy, and that is something which I would wish to indicate support for. I think that there is a lot of respect for our head teachers within that, but of course the counter safeguard within the system, as the Deputy will know, will also be about strengthening the role of governing bodies in order to ensure that there is accountability within the system as well. So that's one part of his question. The second part of the question is looking at the potential of means testing the issues within the fee-paying sector. As already indicated to Senator Mesic, I acknowledge that that's going to be extremely political, and that recommendation would require further consultation with the public and the Council of Ministers to understand whether there was any mileage in that particular recommendation, or whether it would be a better use of time to concentrate on the other recommendations.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes.
Can I ask the Minister then whether an uplift in pupil premium to promote equity of opportunity would be one of his priorities in the next few months?
So it's my understanding that that is already within the government plan. I believe it was something that the scrutiny panel did recommend. We already put more funding towards the pupil premium, and I believe that additional funding is flowing into that project. The exact timing of that is something which I would need to get back to the Deputy on, but it is definitely something already in the government plan.
Senator Ferguson. Senator Ferguson.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, I was so
Yes, Senator.
engrossed in Deputy Ward's suggestions. The Deputy may recall the Code Academy programme we wanted to extend in the primary schools and where possible in the secondary schools, using the material from Code Academy and not concentrating purely on Microsoft, but including the various alternatives such as Linux, Google, Apple and so forth. What is the Deputy going to do about it?
Thank you, sir. We have been developing various programs through the skills department, which has been running various programs within the primary schools. I know, for example, St Martin's have been running a coding program for a while. I know that the DEC program, which is about developing young engineer skills, has also been something which has been offered to the schools in the island. We all know that the aspect of digital skills going forward within the island, not only at primary school level, but across the board, it is going to be an area where the island is going to need to invest further. I think that this is something that absolutely will be mopped up in the retraining strategy. I think the Senator particularly wants to focus on the other operating systems that one can use when it comes to coding. We need obviously to look at the compatibility of hardware and software in order to deliver that, but it is something which is already in the department's work programme.
Yes, but is it going to extend beyond Microsoft, which is so expensive?
Thank you, sir. I would need to look into that and get back to the Senator. I don't have a position on that at the moment.
Thank you.
Deputy Dubney.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations to the new minister. I just wanted to, some clarity, please, from his statement on the early years work. And it sounded rather to me like there was perhaps some backtracking on the 30 hours of nursery funding. I just want some clarity around that, please, and a commitment from the minister that he will remain committed to delivering those 30 hours to nursery children, please.
Thank you, sir. As the Deputy will know, being a member who sat on the Early Years Policy Development Board, Senator Vowell gave the intention to work towards 30 hours of paid for provision for the early years, but that was also in subject to working in consultation with the early years providers in order to deliver that. So whilst I haven't dropped that commitment, I do want to look at all the recommendations holistically.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes, indeed, Deputy, yes.
The minister's stating things that I know which they're not correct, because actually the 30 hours funding was secured in the government plan. So so am I taking that from the minister that he's not going to be driving that forwards? I just wanted a yes or a no, whether he was sticking to that 30 hours that is in the government plan and will be provided. Will that be continued on in subsequent years?
Thank you, sir. So the money provided in the government plan was to support the early years Policy Development Board recommendations. One of the recommendations is the 30 years intention to achieve that, but that was all subject to consultation with the industry. Now, of course, I haven't dropped that as the Deputy is asking for, but we also need to consider the other recommendations within that report for the best outcomes of children.
Well, Deputy Morell.
It's not an answer.
Thank you, sir. Just to mention, Deputy Ward, your microphone appears.
Yes, could I just interrupt, and could any members who are not actually asking questions or speaking an answer, of course, could they turn their microphones off for the time being? Deputy Morell, your voice is extremely faint.
I do apologise.
Even fainter.
I do apologise. Does that help, sir?
That's much better. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations to the minister, and I just want to ask. Senator Vowell, in her resignation letter from the post, she mentioned that she was disappointed that she would not see through the actions that need to be taken around the education reform programme. I was wondering if the minister would be able to explain the main points of that education reform programme to the Assembly and advise the Assembly as to whether he intends to take forward or which aspects he intends to take forward in his tenure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for his question. I did allude to many of them in my opening speech, but I'm happy to repeat them. So we know, for example, within the education reform programme, there are things such as the uplift to the Jersey premium to support social and economic equality within the education system, strengthen the central educational psychology team so that all children have timely access to specialist help, support the mental health and well-being through a whole school approach backed by a targeted training programme, and as well as strengthening the school financial governance, but with broader introductions of financially skilled governing bodies and the introduction of cluster level school business managers. So in order to answer the Deputy's question, we have already now appointed a programme overseer. That's already been put in place, and it's certainly something which I want to stop as Education Minister. Thank you.
I thank him for his answer. Quick supplementary. Among those reforms, does the minister see reform of either the fee-paying aspects of Jersey's school system, or indeed the 14+ at Holyar as part of the education reforms that he would seek to bring through?
Thank you, sir. As we've already discussed, we know that doing anything to the fee-paying sector is going to be highly controversial. I remember the days of Deputy Reid of St One's, who tried to do that, and the bloodbath that followed. I'm quite happy to bring forth on that recommendation, to bring forth a consultation with members to know exactly where this Assembly sits within that. but I think when it comes to Highlands and Holier, one of the key aspects there is, of course, we need to have those institutions have just simple things like a coordinated timetable, so that if you want to supplement your a vocational course with an academic course, there is the ability to do that. So, for example, if you want to do sports studies, it might be great to be able to do one section of the course at Highlands, but then also do biology and psychology at Holier as well, in order to complete that overall plan. So that's where I see the future of those institutions.
Deputy Sutherland.
Thank you, Chair. Will the Minister ensure that 16 to 18 technical education is appropriately funded for the future by levelling up per student funding in technical education and implementing the post-16 education review?
Yes, sir.
Supplementary, Deputy Sutherland.
That was the answer, was it? You're definitely going to level up the spending on technical education to a level that's at parity with A-level and academic studies. Is that the case?
Thank you, sir. That's always been the vision under Senator Valois, that we treat vocational and academic courses the same, and that is definitely a value which I certainly have and have kept. Whether it will be exactly pound for pound tomorrow, I'm unable to say at this time, but so that is certainly the route of travel that I would wish to follow, and I know that there is money in the government plan already to better support Highlands in order to start tackling those inequities.
Thank you for the non-answer.
Deputy Pamplin.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, sir, and congratulations to my fellow parish district number 1 for his nomination. My question, sir, to the Minister is, what is his thoughts on a plan to help our young islanders in their recovery from their experiences going through COVID? Is there one in place, and can he allude to it? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I think this is very much like the Deputy's oral question, which he has later on. Yes, sir, this is something the department has already highlighted. The Deputy will be aware of the, for example, initiatives such as the Kooth app, which have already been launched, and many island students are already taking part in order to support them with their mental health, provide online counselling in order to deal with those aspects. There is also, whilst this is more Children's Minister rather than Education Minister, there is also a redesign of CAMS in order to provide more of a reactive and outreach service to provide those aspects within for young people. But of course, this is also why the inclusion review is so important, because whilst CAMS obviously deals with the higher demand clients, the idea of providing more of an early intervention approach through the reform of the inclusion team will hopefully address well-being and mental health issues at a lower level. So that is something which is already supported by the department, something which we are working on.
Supplementary, Deputy Pamplin.
Yes, thank you, sir, and thank the Minister to be's answer. So could I just push him further in terms of the recovery plan, encompassing not just education, but the overall well-being and the support that our young people are definitely going to need, and especially those less well off who are struggling to access education other means? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Again, as part of the education reform programme, there are specific monies dedicated to extra wellbeing support for our young people, and I hope that will give comfort to the Deputy.
Deputy Wickenden. Deputy Wickenden.
Hear me now?
Only you're breaking up, Deputy. We can barely hear you.
Sorry, sir.
Right, we can hear you now.
You can hear me now? That's good. Yep. Okay. So could the Minister, I'd like to ask the Minister what his views are on the success of the digital classrooms that we've seen over this last year, and his views on expanding the curriculum so that if one school, for instance, teaches Russian, that we can use the digital capability that we've got to expand that offering to other schools that might not have a teacher that teaches in that particular curriculum. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I believe that the shift to digital learning obviously has been essential during the time of the pandemic. I think what's important to bear in mind from the student surveys that we've had back, acknowledging that for some cases there have also been not enough technology in order to support students in some areas, but hard pack were provided. That not every student learning style suits a digital format in order to learn. We know that many students benefit from face-to-face learning. However, for those students where a digital learning experience does work for them, I think that we have shown that we can continue education through a digital route, and provided that we have the equipment, is something which I think is something where we could further develop the offer of schools on Jersey.
Very well. Supplementary, Deputy?
No, thank you, sir.
I'm allowing an additional minute for injury time because there were some interruptions. So, Deputy Gardner, very quickly, if you could.
Thank you, sir. And congratulations for Deputy. My question, children with English as a second language are around 50 or above 50% at some schools. What extra funds will be dedicated to meet and support schools with this need?
I thank the Deputy for her question. Yes, I attended Rouge Bouillon recently, and the head teacher there impressed upon me the high percentage of students with English as an additional language upon me. And I can tell the Deputy that this year, through the government plan, States members have already approved £500,000 in order to support students with English as an additional language, and there's extra funding going forward in extra years. Now, it has been a long-standing issue that a dedicated budget for EAL hasn't really been put in place. This is something which we as the ministerial team have recognised and put in the government plan, but this area isn't forgotten because it's also part of the inclusion review going forward. So I hope that answers the Deputy's question. The states have already agreed to put in £500,000 in this area.
Very well, thank you very much. That brings the time available for questions to Deputy Masson for an end. As there were no other nominations and the speech and period of questions have been completed, I confirm that Deputy Masson has been selected for appointment as the Minister for Education. Very well. As he has been appointed as Minister for Education, there's a vacancy in the position of Minister for Children and Housing. Members have received notice of the Chief Minister's nomination in accordance with Standing Order 117. Chief Minister, do you wish to make that nomination?
Yes, sir, thank you. I'm delighted to nominate Deputy Russell Lavey for the position of Children and Housing Minister, sir.
Is that nomination seconded?
Yes, sir.
Are there any other nominations? If there are no other nominations, then I invite Deputy Lavey to speak for up to 10 minutes, after which there'll be a question period for up to 20 minutes. Deputy Lavey.
Thank you, sir. And I am surprised to be in this position this morning. It's not something I sought. I was very happy doing with what I was doing. And the call came as a surprise at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon from the Chief Minister. I said thank you and I would think about it. And I've got two friends staying here who have a home in Scotland and got marooned here before Christmas with Nicola Sturgeon's blockade. And I told them about the phone call, and they were telling me about they want to move to England, and the range of government funded finance models that were available to them. Shared ownership, of course, the right to buy priorities for those with local ties to local areas, etc., etc. They were amazed, and such was the help available. They were able to put down an offer on a house, and all I've ever heard in the first term of my when I stood in 2014 throughout 2018 on questions about the housing crisis and the problem with housing, the answer was always it's just supply, supply, supply. And of course, supply is absolutely critical, but it isn't just supply alone. It's supply and assistance. And I began to think if we could offer, and the housing market is such in Jersey that potential buyers need more assistance because they can't shop around, they can't move out of town to where the bands get lower till they find a place that they can afford. So if we can combine supply with real assistance, do we dare to hope that we might be able to offer our young people the realistic opportunity to buy a home if that's what they want to do? By 5 o'clock, I was sitting in Senator Farnham's kitchen. What's this all about, Russell? The Chief Minister's just offered me housing. Brilliant, he said. There's a real opportunity here. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some doing. I'll help you. But there's a realistic chance that we can offer our young people the opportunity to buy their home. So the die was cast, and I went back, and by now it's 6 o'clock, I'm at home, and somebody called Marie Claire had been very busy filling my inbox with all sorts of documentation: Housing Policy Development Board report, homelessness strategy, draft Island Public Estate Strategy 2021 to 2035. I haven't even opened that one. I'm very, very new to this. As members know, I've been busy with other stuff for the last 2.5 years. I was pleased to be doing that. I'm proud of what we've managed to achieve with my 2 committees. So I'm on a steep learning curve, but I'm prepared to learn. I learn quickly. I don't have the answers yet. I'm just really formulating the questions. But that housing policy report, what did I find in there? Something that jumped out was the sentence that began: the government of Jersey should maintain and modify, if necessary, a single existing affordable ownership product. So some hope to find that there. What else was in there? A new strategic coordination function. Terrible title. What does it mean? Well, if we're to build 7,000 homes by 2030, it seems sensible to build the right ones, the ones that are required. And members will know every time a new scheme pops up with 100 plus 1 beds, 22 beds, three beds, we get a flurry of emails and comment about what's up with all the 1 beds? So we need more variety. So the strategic coordination function across all providers will check what's in the pipeline, what's coming through in the pipeline to be developed, and is that going to properly satisfy what is needed to be developed? So I think that's a good thing. And I'm not really sure how much I can talk about the Policy Development Board report because it's not been published yet, and I know that Scrutiny have seen it, but for me, it seems to provide a blueprint for what I, as Minister, should now drive forward. It's been a little bit delayed because of COVID, but I think it's a very good blueprint, and I'm excited by it. I had 20 minutes on Monday in Broad Street with the Customer Local Services policy officers and going through the Housing Minister's policy portfolio and priorities, and very interesting, and it cross-referenced with the Development Board report. And on the back, we got down to the last one, research and development of affordable home purchase products. So I can't help feeling, it's just here where it says confidential. I couldn't help feeling that it's a sign, and I wanted to take that theme because I believe it's so important. I was obviously at this time where 15 months left of this term, I was obviously thinking about what I could achieve, and I do think the housing problem is all our problem. And whilst there isn't an awful lot of time, I do have the blueprint, and if we work together, I don't think that product will be available by the end of this term. But if there's problems with the way property is transacted in the island, and conveyancing laws might have to change. But if we can, by the end of this term, at least signal that it's on the way and what kind of product might be available, coupled with the supply that is coming through, 1,000+ units in my district alone, in one stretch of road between Wicklow 4 and Gas Place, have come on, are in the planning process at the moment. So if we can combine supply with help and get that done, I think that could be really, really important. So I've mentioned young people and wanting to buy a home, but that option isn't available to everybody. And it's equally important that our tenants are safe and secure and stress-free. And I'm pleased to see that there are also measures in the report which I will champion. This morning at 3:35, my phone pinged with a message from a Mr. Johnson. I don't think it's Mr. David Johnson, because he said, "Good luck, Russell. I hope you get housing. Please don't lose track with the electoral reform." And there's not a chance of that. I just need to explain to members that I'm not abandoning PPC. It is a huge wrench for me to leave chairmanship of PPC and the planning committee. But when these offers come along, you either stand up and go for it, or you don't. And my feeling is you don't have a choice, because it's in there in your head. And if you don't go for it, you think, what if? What could I have done? What opportunity did I miss? So that's why I'm here today. But I think it's a difficult 15 months because it's running up to an election, and that's when politicians very often diverge, don't they, and put some space between them and others, and what's been achieved and what's not achieved in readiness for the election platform. But working together, we can still do things and achieve things and have a record to be proud of by the next election. And electoral reform is one of those. And the only thing I asked the Chief Minister if I could have was a seat as an executive member back on PPC, so that I could continue the work streams that I've started there, making videos about what it is members do, remuneration, I'm afraid, setting up Senator Valois and her committee, looking at accountability and democracy in governance in the way we run things. So I'm very hopeful that it's just be a little bit of musical chairs on PPC, and that we can continue this work. And electoral reform will be a great achievement. We had a resounding win in December with 31 people. And I just want to say to the others who I know aren't so keen on it, the 16, and who really had the chance and had their say and had lots of options in December. The decision was made. We're going to bring the regulations back. Let's stop. Let's stop the tweets about it's not going to work and it's not going to increase voter turnout. Please, let's stop that and be positive. I appeal to members, get on board. We're going to get this through with still 12 months to go before the next election, in line with international standards. It's going to be better. It's going to be fairer, giving all our population fair votes across the island. And so please get on board. Just think about all those people who like to refer to us as the turkeys who won't vote for Christmas. They were silenced. The silence was deafening. We've made a big, big change, and we've got to see it through. And we're going to have a massive achievement like no other assembly since the war.
So I see that brings your time speaking to the Assembly to an end. There's now a period of 20 minutes of questions available. Deputy St Martin.
Thank you, sir. And sir, can I start by thanking the Deputy for his speech, which was different and delivered in his usual inimitable manner. And I'd like to agree with everything he said. It's so encouraging to hear somebody who spent 99.9% of his speech looking forward and not looking back. My question is this, sir. Deputy, the previous minister made some noises about encouraging the potential return of the housing policy H3. Do you have any views on building private for sale houses alongside social housing? And will you be championing the return of that policy?
This is new to me, I would say to the Deputy of St Martin. We need supply coming through. We need 7,000 houses, units by 2030. So I think we've got to look at all options. I think government and agencies and the public sector will probably be called upon to provide 5,000 of those homes, but units, but 2,000. I think it's needed to come from the private sector. I think it's vital in. I'm veering slightly because I'd need to have a look at H3 to properly answer the deputy's question. Hands up. But I have been encouraging, and the planning committee have been encouraging, a change in the green zone policy for quite some time now, because we see applications coming forward, existing properties. They might have been a cow stable, they might have been a barn, they might have been a garage, in the green zone, maybe in sometimes sensitive areas, recommended not for approval. Somebody wants to convert them into accommodation. I think that's got to change, because there is so much redundant property which could make a difference. I'd like to see a planning amnesty in the same way that we have gun amnesty sometimes. Say to people, look, upload your backyard where you want to put a couple of houses, give us the location, fill in this form. Let's have a period of a month where you can send that in. We'll go through it all. We'll either red light it and say, no, this, you don't stand a chance with this. Amber it, we'll come and have a look. Or green it, you can pursue this application and we're going to help you. I'd like to see that, because it could produce hundreds of units in buildings that are already existing. So I'm sorry I dodged the deputy's real question, but I hope that is some satisfaction.
Do you have a supplementary, Deputy St Martin?
Thank you, sir. I'm grateful, and I apologise to the minister for dropping that question on him. Would have asked something else if I'd known.
Very well. Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. And congratulations to Deputy Labby on his appointment. Sir, in the most recent house price index, it quite clearly states that advertised rental prices were 6% higher in Q3 2020 than in the corresponding quarter of 2019. Now, obviously, a 6% inflation in rental prices vastly outstrips the rate of inflation, which is at the moment 0.9%. So would the new minister please explain to the Assembly how he intends to work to kind of stabilise rents, if not potentially even seek to bring them down?
Well, I have to look. I'm not sure how much I can say and I can't say. I'm going to say what I need to say, because this conversation is pointless in terms of what's in the Housing Policy Development Board report. And I have to say what they have done is put rental stabilisation on the agenda. It's there. I'm looking at it now. They have also put on the agenda investigating reform of the social rent setting, the 90%. But I think the deputy is referring probably to rental in the private sector, and we've got to work on tenants' rights, as I referenced earlier, security of tenure. For some people, we want them to view their tenancy as a long-term tenancy, that they're secure there. I've referenced young people a lot, but especially for older people, they might want to know, well, I'm not going to have to move again, and we want to help them do that. And we've got to, I'd like perhaps with me a fresh face. And Deputy Hulin said to me the other day, yesterday when I bumped into him, that he congratulated me and said, "I think you're a good appointment because you're persuasive and you're coercive." And if I am, I want to use those qualities as much as I can to work with the landlords in the private sector and also the tenants. And we want to try not to get entrenchment. We want to try and find common ground and see if we can make some progress on helping people in their tenancies, not in rental stress, which is a terrible thing to live with. And it's difficult. I mean, I'm a landlord. My property is in the UK. I rent it out. I never put the rents up between tenancies. I never do that if I'm able to when I'm with a change of tenant. And the reason I don't put it up is because it's a lot of bother. I think it's a bit unfair. And also I want my tenants to stay. Now, if they don't stay...
Beverly, can I ask you to bring your answer to a close? We're almost at 2 minutes. I'm conscious we've only had 2 questions so far, and we're more than a quarter of the way through the time available to you.
Yeah, it costs to change tenants. It's better to keep them for as long as possible.
Quick supplementary, sir, is the deputy mentioned the Housing Policy Development Board report, essentially as a way of not being able to read from it. So will he commit, when will he publish that report? Because we are in a slightly ridiculous situation where I'm asking a question which he is essentially not answering, despite the fact that he's got the answer right next to him.
Well, actually, I have answered because the report puts those things on the agenda. It doesn't actually specifically say, I don't think, exactly what should be done, but it's putting them out there. And I think the report is due to be published in a couple of weeks, if not less time. It's just waiting on the Chief Minister, I believe. But I think it's good.
Very well. I propose, as I have at least 10 members who wish to ask questions and not very much time available, I'm not going to allow any supplemental questions. Members would just ask their main question. Deputy Ward.
Sir, can I ask the, it's a shame we don't have a supplementary. So can I ask the Minister, does he believe that there should be a licensing system of landlords on the island? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I mean it's faulted, hasn't it? I've struggled to find anybody yesterday who could tell me exactly what's happening with either licensing or a register of landlords. But I think we have to do something like that. We have to do something like that. Yes.
Any chance for supplementary because it was quick, sir?
Well, it was quick. It's quite difficult. There are going to be some members who probably won't get to their questions, but all right, I will permit supplementaries if we can keep the answers concise.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, given that the Chief Minister voted against the licensing, what does the Minister have in common with policy on housing with the Chief Minister? Thank you, sir.
I've got to be honest, I'm struggling with what the difference between licensing and registering, but I'm going to look into that.
Senator Messick.
Thank you, sir. The candidate has referred to the Housing Policy Development Board and its recommendation on rent stabilisation. Could he give his definition of what rent stabilisation actually is?
Well, rent stabilisation is rent control, but in the public sector. It's intervention to cap rents or stabilize them and prevent them from moving up, and it is used. I mean, you know, the massive debate about that is whether I think one economist said that rent control is the most effective technique to ruin a city, apart from bombing it. But we've moved on from that, and lots of places do use rent stabilisation or rent control measures. And given Jersey, it's so special, you can't go, you know, you hit the sea and no more properties. I think intervention should be looked at.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes, there's time for that.
Thank you, sir. Not a great answer, but it is his first day, so we'll hopefully give him time to learn what the definition is, because it's not what he said it was. He does have money allocated in the government plan to deliver on rent stabilisation. Could he confirm whether he believes he has the support of his soon-to-be ministerial colleagues to go ahead with that, or does he anticipate that they'll stab him in the back like they did the Environment Minister on the landlord licensing scheme?
I can't make that commitment because I haven't spoken to any of them about it. But it is there, and Senator Messick's name keeps coming up, and I commend him for this report and all those who sat on it, Deputy Alves, Constable St Mary, Deputy Young, and the former Greffier. And I see it as my role to champion it, and that's what I will try to do.
Point up, St Helier.
Thank you, sir. With thousands of new housing units destined for St Helier in the coming decade, does the Minister-elect believe that some development sites ought to be earmarked now to provide amenity space and community facilities that these new residents are going to need?
Yes, that's defined my entire political career. I started with that fight. I think it's absolutely essential.
No supplementary, thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Ferguson. Senator Ferguson. Conor Thompson Lawrence.
Thank you, sir, and congratulations to Deputy Labby on his appointment. I would be happy to be described as persuasive, but certainly not as coercive. You may want to reflect upon that. Sir, we know that the Chief Minister is looking to change the role of this minister to that of housing and communities, and Deputy Labby his silence was deafening on that. Can he tell us, please, what he understands to be his role within communities and speak to it? Thank you, sir.
I think it was a malapropism on my part. I think it's cohesive, possibly. I believe that the potential is there to give a voice to, for example, the elderly. We've seen how across the Council of St Saviour and Senator Ferguson gets when the elderly are spoken of, the ageing population is spoken of in terms of a burden. No, let's have none of that anymore. Let's celebrate it. I think it's about pulling threads together. I mean, in terms of the third sector, which Deputy Martin, the Minister for Social Security, and Deputy Wickenden are working on, the parish community stuff. I know that Deputy Guida is working on a lot of that. I think I don't want to stop those, or the intention is not to stop those work streams that are happening, but maybe to pull them together and give them a voice. It's the most embryonic, obviously, of initiatives at the moment, but that's how I see it.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes, the
Deputy spoke at length about electoral reform, and his mission has been to remove the constables from the states. Does he see this new communities minister, therefore, as being a voice piece for the parishes when the constables are no longer in the Assembly?
Well, I'm a born-again retain the constables person, if you remember the debate in December. That's my position. And the community work that the parishes already do is absolutely brilliant and vital, and I'm here to help.
On opportunity.
Thank you, sir. With the minister in his new position, does he feel that that will change his view on the importance of preserving our historical assets and built heritage in the drive to deliver more affordable homes? Thank you, sir.
No, because I think if we're clever, we can do both. And I think it's absolutely vital that the island doesn't lose its identity while still providing the masses of units that it needs to do. It's absolutely vital, and we must retain our identity and our character. We are losing too many historic buildings. And if you don't believe me, I hope that the Arup report, which I haven't seen, but I'm told entirely concurs with my view, we are losing too much of our heritage, and it's got to stop. We can keep it and deliver these units.
I'll return then to Senator Ferguson. Senator Ferguson, your question.
Thank you, sir. Just a quick one. Will the Minister, we're talking about the cost of building, will the Minister set up a group in coordination with other ministers to encourage the use of modernisation of construction techniques, like changing the filler in concrete to synthetic fibre, which reduces the cost, set up at updating heritage procedures and so forth?
Yes, I think that's a very good idea. I'm happy to look into that. I think, you know, we've got a lot of help on hand with these sort of things. The Jersey Architects Commission are supplying some very interesting comments on proposals that they're asked to look at. If you look at the Ann Street Brewery site one, I mean, I don't know how much of that has been taken on board, but I think that's an incredible resource, a very knowledgeable bunch of people, and they've got their finger on the pulse, and we should tap into that.
Very well, Colin Tarbison-Brillard.
Thank you, sir. Would the new minister, and I congratulate him, let members know how he would propose to support the various housing providers in satisfying the demand for accommodation for particularly the over 55 age group without rezoning further greenfield sites? Thank you, sir.
Well, there's a lot I've read in the report about cross-governmental funding to help the aged, the housing trusts, etc. And well, the competing tensions of the need for desperate need for these new units, and also the need to retain our green fields. We're all familiar with them. My position has always been, and I've said it before, that if green fields have to go, then let's make it the green fields that are the least productive. And I'm sorry if in St. Peter's that means it's not right in the village centre, and it might be more towards the airport, but isn't it better to build, if we have to, on green fields, ones that are not so good for agriculture?
Well, Deputy Young.
Thanks, sir. Well, I'd like to congratulate the Deputy on his election, and I'm delighted with the comments and efforts he's made to the Housing Policy Development Board. Obviously, I'm looking forward to working with him, but my question draws from that report. Obviously, high land values are a barrier to our achieving housing development. What are the minister's views on the states intervening in by acquiring sites and putting them to affordable homes development, rather like was done in a very great deal in the 1990s? What are his views on that? Would he favour such an approach, sir?
Yes, I would, and the report goes into recommending, you know, a tough line on stopping land banking, and where sites have been rezoned, compulsorily purchasing them if development is not forthcoming. We've got a target to hit with these 7,000 units by 2030, and we might have to get tough. And yeah, so yes is the answer.
Well, Deputy Truscott, very briefly, we have a very little time left.
Thank you, sir. I will be brief. Just heartfelt congratulations to the Minister. 6.5 years on the Planning Committee, an absolute honour to serve with you, Deputy. Of those 6.5 years, will that experience, what from that experience will you take to the ministerial table? Thank you, sir.
Well, I just think this: if you get an application right in the planning stage, before you actually it becomes an application, if you get these things right, and you don't have to go through multiple applications and appeals, you save money and you save time. So anything I can do to help in that direction, I would happily do. But obviously, we're keeping within the protocols. And I thank the deputy very much for serving with me for all that time. It's a wrench for me, and I know that leaving the committee in his and Constable Lesueur's hands, it's in very good hands.
Thank you very much. That brings the period available for questions to Deputy Labby to an end. There are no other nominations. As the speech and period for questions have been completed, I confirm that Deputy Labby has been selected for appointment as Minister for Children and Housing.
So might I just thank members for their support, and also thank you for all the help and support and invaluable advice you have given me as PPC Chair. It's been an absolute joy working with you, and we all know how brilliantly you've performed operating these virtual sittings. To the GREF staff too, I hope it's not going to be goodbye, just adieu, and that I will be back helping PPC. And to my officer, the incomparable Peter Le Grailly, and all those I've served with on the planning committee, it is a wrench, as I've said, to leave. We're doing great work, and long that may continue. Thank you, sir.
Very much, Deputy. I shall be turning the colour of my robe if you continue with that, but thank you very much indeed. Deputy Truscott, you have a point of order?
Yes, sir. It's just that, as I understand it, on the departure of the planning committee chair, the committee falls away and a new committee will have to be re-elected.
I was going to come on to that, Deputy, if that is
fine, sir. Thank you.
And then if you have a point of order after that, then I'll say. As a result of Deputy Labby's new appointment, there are, as Deputy Truscott has indicated, vacancies for the chair of the planning committee and chair of PPC. These are, as members will be fully aware, very busy committees indeed, and I would therefore be inclined to arrange for elections to take place as quickly as possible. It seems to me, if it has to happen at this sitting, then the possibilities are at some time during the course of the afternoon, after the period of questions without notice is concluded, or immediately at the start of business tomorrow morning, as it is likely that business overnight, almost inevitable, I would have thought. But perhaps members could email the greffier if they wish to argue that elections should be deferred until the end of the meeting, and I'll consider the matter deferred until the next meeting, I should say, and at that point the greffier and I will consider the matter and announce at lunchtime when the elections will take place. So the options for dealing with it this time will be after questions, but of course there is a period where the individual will need to give a speech and to be open to questions. It's up to people to feel whether that's enough time, or tomorrow morning, or the next meeting. So the answer is that if members would let the greffier know by email, then we can deal with that, and I'll announce it after the lunch hour as to what it is we'll be doing. Very well. There is nothing under T and H. We come to questions, and you had a point that you wish to raise, Deputy Ward.
Yes, sir. It's really Standing Order 12 4A, when a written question is not answered, was clearly applicable when written questions were attached to a sitting. And I've seen from the order paper today that there are some written questions attached to the sitting, but because we have questions within the 3 weeks, can I ask you, sir, what the procedure is if one does not believe a written question has been answered appropriately, because we only have a chance every 3 weeks to actually raise it. It's just a point of, I don't know what you'd call it, a point of clarification or process. Thank you, sir.
You're muted, sir. You're still mute, sir.
Can I add that to my, thank you, Deputy, can I add that to my lunchtime jobs and give you a view on that after the lunchtime adjournment? That's,
of course,
that's all right. And I'll have to sort of check back as precisely what you asked, because I'm afraid I was only half focused, other things occupied me. So it might actually be helpful if you could add that into an email and send it to me so that I can consider it again. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, sir.
Very well. Before we come on to questions, I'm sorry I had forgotten that there's a nomination for a chair of the Public Accounts Committee by the chair of the Public Accounts Committee for the appointment of an unelected member of the committee. It's a requirement under Standing Orders 1241 that at least 14 days before the meeting during which the unelected members are to be appointed, notice be given to the greffier of the intended nominees, and the nominations must be distributed to members. Those requirements have been met in this case. Chair, therefore, can I ask you to make the nomination?
Thank you, sir. Yes, and I would like to nominate Mr. Paul van Bodigam as a fourth unelected member to the Public Accounts Committee.
Is that nomination seconded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, under Standing Order 1242, nominations from any other members could be considered, but notice would have had to have been given at least 2 clear working days before the relevant meeting. No nominations were received, and therefore I declare that Mr. Paul van Bodigam has been duly elected as a member of the Public Accounts Committee.
Thank you, sir.
Very well. We now come on to questions.
So, sorry, Deputy Tadia here. I put something in the chat, but I appreciate it might not have been seen yet.
Oh, yes,
so it's a question
indeed.
about appointments.
Yes. Yes, Deputy.
I'm wondering if it might be helpful for Assembly members to know, whilst we're still on this item, if we are, whether there are going to be just one candidate for each of the vacancies at PPC and planning, or more. It seems to me that if there's only one, it might be sensible to either proceed now or later today. But if there are likely to be multiple members, that it would be sensible to give those candidates sufficient time to prepare. But I know members will have, of course, been thinking about this, have been thinking about it over the last couple of days already.
Yes, I mean, on the understanding of human nature, Deputy, that quite often people only come into focus on precisely what their plans are when presented with the potential actuality of the whole thing, I suppose. It may be that members will wish to reflect on that before they can, and I'm not sure who can give a definitive answer as to whether there shall be one nomination or more than one nomination at this point. We'll clearly know that better after the luncheon, because we'll understand more. Hopefully people will indicate to us whether they are intending to put forward other individual, one individual or more than one individual. I'm not sure how we can firm up on that at this point. But if members are able to do so outside the 4 corners of the meeting by email and the like, well then that I'm sure is something that can happen offline, if I can put it that way. Very well, we come now to oral questions. The first question is by the Connétable St. One, directed to the Attorney General. Connétable.
Thank you, sir. So, will the Attorney General please advise whether there is any potential legal threat to the Overdale Hospital project from the 2 avenues of legal action under the Compulsory Purchase of Land (brackets Procedure Jersey (brackets) Law 1961 and the Human Rights Jersey Law 2000, outlined in Blakely Law's letter of the 31st of January, a copy of which I forwarded to him and in fact I forwarded to all members.
Mr. Attorney.
Sir, I thank the Deputy for his, the Constable for his question. Blakely Legal's letter of the 31st of January does indeed make legal threats, and I'm advising the Our Hospital project and the political oversight group on those threats, but my advice is confidential and subject to legal privilege. Thanks, sir.
Very well. Deputy Tadia.
Thanks, sir. I'm guessing the Constable doesn't have a supplementary.
Well, I'm assuming if people don't ask for a supplementary, then I assume that they're not asking for one and move on. But
that's fine.
Well.
Thanks. I just didn't want to jump the queue. I think this is related because it's the same. It's related to the legal letter that's been going out to do with the road at Overdale and the project. Is he aware that Mr. Blakely has been writing to residents of the area saying that there's a parish meeting coming up and saying that they can give him power of attorney to vote for them at the parish assembly. And if the Attorney General is aware of that, can he advise whether it's possible for members of any parish to give power of attorney to another individual to vote on their behalf at such a parish assembly?
Well, Mr. Attorney, if you happen to know the answer to that, but it isn't within the four corners of the question that was posed by the Connétable St. One, but it's a matter for you if you're able to give advice on that basis.
Sir, I've only just become aware of it a few minutes before Deputy Tadier raised his question. I could give a preliminary answer to it, but I would prefer to give an accurate answer. So I think it would be better if I deferred answering the Deputy's question. I could supply an answer to him in writing separately.
Thank you.
Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. I may have misunderstood, but the Attorney General appeared to say that he was unable to answer the question because it would it's a matter of legal privilege. However, I'm trying to understand why this is the case, because the Attorney General has been asked a question separately to any legal advice he's given elsewhere, and so I would like to the Attorney General to answer the question as asked to the Assembly, as this is a question of the Assembly asked of him, and it's not a question of repeating advice that he has given elsewhere.
Yes, so my answer to that is that it's a basic point concerning the relationship between lawyers and their clients. I am advising our hospital project group and also the political oversight group. And in those circumstances, it's not open to me as a matter of professional practice to give my privileged and confidential legal advice to repeat it in a public forum, because the hospital project group and the political oversight group are entitled to take legal advice in a confidential way. That's a basic it's a basic right of any client in relation to their lawyers. So, sir, if Deputy Morell wants to have separate advice concerning Advocate Blakely's letter, then he will need to get that from the Solicitor General and not from me.
Thank you, sir. Quick supplementary. Would the Attorney General please explain in what circumstances he is then able to provide an answer to questions asked in the Assembly, where they may also happen to overlap with advice given elsewhere? Because I would have thought it is the Attorney General's primary responsibility to this Assembly, sir.
Yes, and in most circumstances, the vast majority of circumstances, I am able to advise members in the Assembly concerning their questions, as Deputy Morell will be aware from the many previous answers that I've given in this Assembly. But where, sir, the matter concerns actual potential litigation, that's a different set of circumstances. That's a very specific set of circumstances, and it's very difficult for me to give answers in a public forum in relation to a matter which is by its nature legally privileged and confidential. It is very much the minority of circumstances, but as I've said, where I am in that position, then we make arrangements for the Solicitor General to give separate advice to members under an ethical wall, which we can operate in the Law Officers Department.
Well, now I've got Deputy Truscott and Deputy Gardiner, and then final supplementary. Deputy Truscott.
Yes, thank you, sir. And I know questions on these matters are always very delicate. We're being constantly reminded by the project team that time is of the essence, and that's been the whole thing that's been driving the hospital project all the way through. Could the Attorney General advise the potential delay that this challenge could bring to the project going forward? Thank you, sir.
So that seems to me largely a factual matter rather than one of legal advice. Insofar as it is a matter for legal advice, then I'm afraid I have to repeat my previous answer that my advice to the project group and to the political oversight group is subject to legal privilege. It's very difficult for me to give public answers on these sorts of questions in this very public forum.
Deputy Gardner.
Yes, sir. I'm not sure if it's a question or for you for point of order or point of clarification. Can be arranged that Solicitor General will give advice for the members during this sitting that we as the members can understand the position, the legal position that we can find ourselves in?
The answer is there is no natural ability to give to pose any question of the Solicitor General during the course of this sitting, unless it's an urgent oral question, and that would need to have the appropriate that would need to meet the appropriate test, Deputy. But I don't think that's a matter for the Attorney General. Final supplementary, Conor Tarbison 1.
Thank you, sir. And I apologise to the Attorney General for putting him in a difficult position, but I was just very concerned when I read the letter, and I guess I understand his position not being able to answer the question, and I thank him for his efforts, and I'm reassured that he's on the case, so to speak.
Very well. We come to the second question. The Deputy Morell will ask the Minister for Social Security. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister explain how the level of long-term care payment covering the cost of care for the elderly is calculated, and whether the methodology used is based on the actual cost of care services currently available in the island?
Minister.
Thank you, and I thank the Deputy for his question. The long-term care scheme provides benefits for adults of all ages who satisfy the conditions of the scheme. 4 levels of payments are provided based on care assessments of the individual. A separate payment is provided in respect of the living costs in a care home. Benefit levels were originally set in July 2014 based on the predecessor's benefits and arrangements that the scheme replaced. This places long-term care benefits at a good basic level within the overall care market, and the funding for the scheme is based on this assumption. Benefit levels are regularly reviewed and were last increased at the start of 2021. I have the 4 levels. Level 1 is £394.73, level 2 £602.28, level 3 £870.59, and level 4 £1,094.52. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. I would ask the Minister to answer the last part of my question, which is, are these benefit levels actually set in relation to the cost of care services that are available in the island today, sir?
The cost of these care, the cost of the care package does cover some care homes. It doesn't cover all care homes.
Final supplementary, please, sir.
Well, that's not normal, though. Do we normally have a final supplementary if no one else has asked an intervening supplementary?
Absolutely.
Very well. And there's not been an intervening supplementary, so we move on to the next question. But you have a point of order, Deputy Young.
Sorry, sir. No, my point of order was in relation to the first oral question, because it did occur to me that members may wish to have the opportunity to consider an answer in camera, but I'll let that we passed on that now, sir. But because I do think it's an important question. Sorry. So
thank you very much indeed, Deputy. That's thank you for clarifying. Conor Tarbison-Hellyer has a question for the Minister of the Environment. Conor.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise the States Assembly how many new homes are expected to be provided in St Helier within the current decade, and whether it is his assessment that there is sufficient critical infrastructure already in place in the town to support such an increase?
Thank you, sir. The the question, I think, requires me to refer to the island plan review, which is in process. And of course, the next island plan will not cover the 10 years. It will be for a shorter 3-year plan. But in question of the housing supply, the planning horizons adopted is a 5-year housing supply. And of course, I've already published the preferred strategy report last October, which set out the numbers that the plan is being based on and the parameters, and called the majority of the homes will be proposed in the existing built up areas. St Helier will not be the sole focus, but it's expected to accommodate between 700 and 1,600 homes in the 5-year period, sir. On the second part of his answer, the short answer is no, there is not enough community infrastructure provision in St Helier now, and there desperately needs to be in the future, because town residents do not enjoy the same level of access to community infrastructures. All of the figures show that a serious problem. There's a challenge there. The island plan will make provision, but that on its own will not do the job, and it needs to have more consideration of government and the use of public land and acquiring land for investment in community facilities at the same time. So that can't be done through planning. It needs other policies. Thank you.
I'm grateful to the Minister for his reply. He gives a relatively modest figure. Is it not the case that with the thousands of units that are being predicted on the Southwest Master Plan alone, the waterfront next phase, and all of the other private sector developments going on around the town and Andium and the Jersey Development Company's construction, that we must be looking at something towards 10,000 units in the current decade?
Well, so obviously I haven't addressed the decade issue. The Conitard will know that the target for housing units throughout the island for the 5-year period is 4,000 homes. So I don't know where his 10,000 will come from, but I'm prepared to look at it. That the truth is that what's happening at the moment is we're seeing a spate of hotel developments. I think there are between 10 and 15 hotels already either on the stocks as a planning application or expected to come very quickly with dwelling units. And I think that presents us with the challenge, which is the community facilities to go with it, because I certainly don't want to see town cramming, sir. So I can't give credence to the 10,000 figures. We're going to have a debate later on the waterfront. There are lots of choices there, I think, still before us. I'm afraid, I don't want to just support that figure of 10,000 now, but it will likely change from the numbers I gave, 700 to 1,600.
Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. You disappeared for a minute there. In terms of critical infrastructure around the town, will the Minister be supporting the building of a youth and community centre in the north of town?
Absolutely. I am immensely frustrated that that's not happened. And I think I certainly am looking at the current level of planning applications we've got, because I think there will need to be at least one planning inquiry focusing on the issue of whether or not there is enough community provision around in the town to be able to provide a reasonable environment for those new town residents. So absolutely, sir. And I think it is within the gift of our state's machinery to allocate a site. They should be doing it as soon as possible because the money's there in the budget. And I think we can't go round and round and round searching for a site, sir. It's got to be found.
Well, supplementary. Thank you. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Deputy Southern, for asking the question. I was thinking of asking, let me ask another one, sir, the Minister. Can I ask him what his definition of sustainability is for the area of the centre of St Helier with 1,600 homes being built in such a built-up area already? Thank you, sir.
Well, I think I hope the island plan, the draft island plan, will give detailed guidance on this. There will be there is taking place a sustainability review, looking at all the elements. What does that mean? Well, one could speak for half an hour, but I'm not going to. It means there's enough community facilities in the area. It means that the traffic is managed, and we have the facilities to service that community that lives there, and to enable life to go on in a harmonious way. I think we only have to look at successful cities where that has worked and contrast that with areas where that doesn't. And we clearly know if you don't have sustainable communities, then you are going to get social problem that the community will pay the price for.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes, Deputy.
I thank the Minister for the recognition of that, but I make it clear that those things are simply not happening. And in part, sir, when I asked the Minister, does he feel it's because of the piecemeal nature of development in that area, of private sector development, public sector development, and things that are not joined up? And that's what's happened before, and if we're not careful, will happen again. Does the Minister agree, and what would he do about that?
Well, the tools that we got to do that is the island plan, which is why it's so crucial. That law is there, and it's the whole objective of it is to ensure that land is developed in the best interest of our community. And I think it is true that our government process have become very fragmented in recent years, and that is a disappointment. And I think the planning policies have to join up with the work of the Housing Policy Group, and I'm, where we heard from Deputy Labby this morning about the direction there, and also I believe the Regeneration Steering Group, which me as a minister I am not on, who make the decisions on the allocations and use of public sites. So these three things need to coordinate. I think, sir.
Much final supplementary, Conor St Helier.
Thank you, sir, and I'm very grateful to Deputy Ward for his excellent supplementary question, which leads to my final supplementary question to the Minister, who was Chief Officer at Planning when I was asked as a young deputy to chair the Urban Renewal Subcommittee, and he will remember that the previous Planning Committee had an urban task force. Does the Minister believe that we have the right political structure in place to achieve the coherent and holistic planning for town that is necessary, or are we in danger of being fragmented and seeing the money that is being generated by projects being spent on a variety of nice to have projects rather than on the central matters that we've been discussing this morning?
Thank you, sir. It seems a lifetime ago when I was a civil servant, and there was indeed a vision of an urban renewal committee, I think it was called, and there were very substantial public funds allocated to it. The state also had available of money to buy land, which I think was anything up to 100 million, and sites were acquired and developed in accordance with that work. So it was very progressive, ahead of its time. Sadly, a lot of that, in fact, nearly all of it has withered on the vine. And so I think now with the island plan, and I think with Deputy Labby's energy, I think and the support of the CONITAB, there's every chance in the future we can try and retain some of that in new structures. But realistically, we've only got just over a year to go. And I think that, we're unlikely to get that full machinery in place at the moment, but certainly the island plan will provide the model for the way forward, sir.
Thank you very much. I apologise, Deputy Dublé. I think I missed your point of order that you raised earlier. I'm sorry, sometimes things get lost in the flurry of comment on the chat. You have a point of order.
Yes, thank you, sir. I mean, other members did allude to it, but I just wanted to know what standing orders actually say about when the Assembly seeks legal advice. What other avenues are there if the AG isn't able to answer, and can the question perhaps be answered by the SG, and what would be the normal procedure if the AG feels he can't answer?
Well, I would need to give that some consideration, Deputy. It's not something that I need to make a ruling on immediately, but you may be aware that there is a request for an urgent oral question in the same terms to be directed to the Solicitor General. I'll be giving consideration to that over the luncheon adjournment, and perhaps that will deal with this particular matter. Very well. We now come to question 4. The Deputy Tadier will ask of the Minister for Children and Housing. Deputy Tadier.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise what safeguards, if any, are in place for tenants who find themselves homeless due to a fire or other event not of their making? And is it in his assessment that there are sufficient protections in place for tenants?
Minister. Deputy Labby. Deputy Labby.
I'm so sorry, sir. I was having issues.
I wondered if you'd forgotten you'd just been elected as Minister, Deputy.
Yeah, that too, sir. Sorry. Well, obviously, one sympathises with anyone who finds themselves in this type of difficult situation, which we all hope is a rare occurrence on the island. The Residential Tenancy Jersey Law 2011 regulates the relationship between private parties who enter into a contractual arrangement in the letting of residential property. The law sets out the basic terms that a tenancy must contain and regulates the termination of tenancies. The law provides that if a property becomes uninhabitable through no fault of the tenant, then the tenant is not required to pay any rent during the period when the property is uninhabitable, and that both the tenant and the landlord have recourse to approach the court to either vary the length of the tenancy or end it. In line with the Common Strategic Policy and the government plans of 2020-2021, I am committed to improving the rights of tenants, and this issue will be part of that project. I give that commitment to the Deputy. It may be that the circumstances here have uncovered a flaw in the residential tenancy law, that it may be defective and may need updating, and I will make that one of my first priorities.
So I think the new Minister, for answering that question, is probably his first official duty of his new role, and he seems to be already well briefed on that. He is quite right to say that Article 9 of the Residential Tenancy Law obviously provides. So, for example, if there has been a fire, and there certainly was a fire in the parish that I represent, where 6 households found themselves homeless. So, of course, they don't pay rent there because they have nowhere to inhabit. But there is nothing in the law which says that the landlord must provide them with suitable alternative accommodation during for the rest of their tenancy. So whilst there is, as he says, a recourse to the court, not just to vary the length of the tenancy, but to actually vary the tenancy if either party wants it to do that. Does he agree that it is quite an arduous process and not an automatic one, and that there should be a presumption in the law that if what you're renting becomes unavailable, that the person you're renting it off should provide something equivalent or better at no additional cost to the tenant?
Well, yes, I have to agree that having to go to court to resolve this in an emergency situation is certainly not ideal.
Very well. Then we now come on to question 5 that the Constable St Martin will ask of the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Deputy of St Peter, did you have a question in connection with the Minister for Children and Housing?
No, sir. Sorry, I'm
Very
a
well.
bit slow on the button. I apologise.
Or fast on the button, perhaps, I'm not sure. I beg your pardon. Constable St Martin, then.
Thank you, sir. Has the Minister considered the position of capital allowances on the large infrastructure costs, interest payments related party fees and other mechanisms used to reduce the potential taxable profits arising from the growing and processing of medicinal cannabis? And will he state whether this will be fully addressed prior to any draft regulations being proposed?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. This is ultimately a matter for the Minister for Treasury and Resources, sir, but I can report that Treasury officers have not yet commenced work to devise a scheme of taxation for medicinal cannabis. As stated in the response to the Constable's written question, number 35, sir, of this year, which is presented today, the Treasury Minister has already laid the way for taxation of that sector. Article 16 of the Finance 2021 Budget Law 2020 enables the states to make regulations providing for the taxation of profits of companies whose business involves or relates to cannabis or its derivatives, sir. So provision has already been made to do that. It's envisaged that work on the scheme of taxation for this sector will commence this year once further progress has been made with other important tax reviews such as independent taxation, sir. But I would like to stress that it is very much the intention that that sector of the industry is appropriately taxed, sir. Thank you.
Supplemental, Connie St Martin.
Oh, yes, please, sir. So I'd just like to say to the Assembly, we're not talking about hemp here. And I just want to say, so we're introducing the growing of high-grade medicinal cannabis in the island. And the Minister for Economic Development is telling the Assembly.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, sorry. So that I'm just trying to get this correct. Sorry. So the industry will not be regulated, and we've already given out licenses. Surely this work should have been done before the licenses were given out. And can he tell me, as he's said to me verbally, that the industry will be taxed at 20%?
I'm not sure, sir. The CONATAB did state, sir, that the industry will not be regulated. I'm not sure that has relevance to the question, but I can assure members of industry is very highly regulated, sir, in line with an MOU with the UK Home Office, who has delegated responsibility under the UN Cannabis Convention, sir, to Jersey. So the industry is very highly regulated and licensed, sir, and that is under the regime of the Health Minister. The Tax Department are doing the work on taxation of the sector at the moment. It is envisaged, sir, and has but not been agreed yet that the industry will be taxed at 20%, sir. But work is ongoing, sir, and I want to reassure members that the industry will be appropriately taxed, sir. Thank you.
Deputy St Peter, did you have a question? Deputy Taddy.
So I just wanted to question, I don't offer an opinion, of course, on this, but presumably the consideration being given to the appropriate level of taxation for these companies could also consider a zero rate because, or a smaller rate than 20, because I would imagine being competitive is also in the forefront of the Minister's mind when it comes to attracting companies who grow and distribute and manufacture medicinal cannabis products in the island to come here and to stay here. So could he maybe say that the 20% tax rate isn't automatically in his thinking?
The 20% rate, sir, is automatically in my thinking. I think that would be a fair rate, sir. The Jersey is leading the UK and actually leading the world in some instances in this sector by having a very highly regulated and controlled space for which to operate in. We want to go with quality, sir, very, very high quality production, extraction, manufacture, export, sir, rather than quantity, sir. I think 20% is a competitive rate, sir. It could even be taxed in a different way. Like I say, sir, that our tax specialists are doing the work. It's a very young industry, and they need to complete their estimates, and we need to wait for their advice, sir, before we make an agreement. But I've made it clear right from the word go, as well as providing more sustainability for our agricultural sector and improving productivity, so in line with the rural economy strategy. This has to be a financially viable exercise for Jersey and the taxpayer moving forward, sir. And I think it can be, if it's controlled properly and taxed properly, sir, it can be of benefit to the Treasury and Islanders moving forward. Thank you.
So that's supplemental question, Deputy Teddy.
Yeah, thank you, sir. The Minister will be aware that some of the barriers are slowly coming down certainly for medicinal users in Jersey who want to access products, and he's talked about high quality products being produced. I know they won't exclusively be medicinal products, but could be CBD products as well. But does he find it strange that the industry could be producing high quality products which themselves are not being sold in Jersey, which could potentially also attract some kind of duty or tax and other revenues on their sale? Are we missing out, as well as potentially doing a disservice to currently vulnerable people in the island who would want to consume these high quality products?
I think, sir, that is a debate for the states for another day. I think there's certainly opportunity to improve the health of islanders and to gain revenues from such activity, but that is quite separate from the industry we have established, which is based around the cultivation of cannabis, so primarily for export to pharmaceutical and for medical use. I think the states need to discuss that at the appropriate time and make the appropriate decision. But it's a different issue, sir. Thank you.
Very well. I have a question from Deputy Southern, Deputy Ward, Deputy St Mary, then the final supplementary. That'll be it for this request. Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. We must beware, I think, of bandying about rates of tax as if we've got an entire we can run the whole gamut between 0 and 20%, depending upon where we choose. Surely that would be a challenge to our good neighbour policy on the EU, who are indeed there and have imposed 0-10 on us in order to make our regime non-toxic for them and fairer. And if we were to start bandying different rates of tax around, we'd be challenging the EU, and their relationship with us, will we not? Surely.
Minister.
I'm not sure I would agree. So we're not really bandying rates of tax. I was asked by the Connétable whether we were considering a rate of 20%, and the answer is yes. A rate of 20% is being considered. So now taxation is a matter of for ourselves. So I don't see it causing a problem. If anything, sir, the EU has a problem with 0 tax, not 20%. Thank you.
The fact is that under EU conditions, we are allowed those 3 bands of tax: 0, 10 and 20, and that's it. We can't go to 15% or 10% or 17% on things where we choose. And I thought I heard the Minister say that was perfectly possible.
I'd rather wait to receive the expert advice, and I just stick to the position I said earlier that 20% was currently being considered. So I haven't had any other rates, but we could come back and, for example, perhaps a different form of taxation could be applied to the sector, perhaps a turnover tax, for example, or some other form of taxation. So although that's unlikely, I think we need to let the tax experts do their work and come back and listen to the advice at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. So can I ask the Minister, in the rush to create another tax producing industry of the island, has he taken account of all of the possible long-term environmental effects of another monoculture? Some simple examples are the amount of water needed to grow the crop, the possible introduction of different pests, and the perhaps toxic effect on local wildlife. Thank you, sir.
I'm not sure if that relates to the initial question, sir, but as part of the licensing campaign, licensing application and process environmental impact studies are required, sir. And I think there's been a lot of misinformation and concern about the sector. So, and I would encourage members to visit facilities in relation to just how the crop is grown. So it's certainly a far more friendly and sustainable use of the land than many other types of agriculture we currently deploy, sir.
I thank you, Minister. I think, Deputy Ward, I allowed that question in. That slipped past me into the net, I'm afraid. I don't think it relates to the original subject matter, so I won't allow a supplementary on it. Deputy St Mary.
Thank you, sir. For the benefit of the Assembly, will the Minister confirm that he and his officers gave a presentation to the Economic and International Affairs Scrutiny Panel less than 2 weeks ago, and that he is committed to replying to some further questions we are about to raise, and that he will, which are fairly imminent, I might suggest, and will he confirm that these will be duly answered, perhaps in anticipation of the panel conducting further work on this subject? Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, final supplementary, Constable St Martin.
Thank you, sir. What work has been carried out to prove that the production of high-grade medicinal cannabis will be a significant economic benefit, bearing in mind the tax position on local companies and the structuring of investment companies within trusts, where it's difficult to see any significant economic benefit for the island?
I'm sorry, sir. Could the Connaught just elucidate that question? I'm not quite sure I understood it.
I'll just put it really. What work has been carried out on the production of high-grade medicinal cannabis to prove that there will be a significant economic benefit, bearing in mind local tax positions on local companies and structuring of investment companies within the trusts? Meaning that it's not always so straightforward. So has work been carried out to prove that there will be a significant economic benefit?
Yes, thank you to the Connaught just for explaining that a little more clearly. Work has been ongoing on this project for almost 3 years now. It was originally identified in the rural economy strategy that we must drive towards the cultivation and production of higher value crops, and a considerable amount of work has been done, not just on cannabis, but other crops as well. We have many papers and evidence based on facts in relation to the potential financial benefits of such a market, but not just to the Treasury, creating new employment streams, new skill sets. It's not just about cultivation and growth, it's about scientific research, intellectual property. So there are lots of other elements to the industry that could benefit the islands and islanders, but of course happy to share that information with members, so if they so wish. But a lot of work has been done, sir. But I would also stress that it is a relatively new industry, sir. We have to monitor it closely, and it's a long-term. This is a long-term business development program, and I ask members to support it and help it grow, sir, if you'll excuse the pun. Thanks.
Very well. I understand that question 6 now is being deferred. Deputy Pamplin.
Yes, thank you, sir. For the benefit of members, I thank the Chief Minister for contacting me, and as further to my email to the Greffier, this question will be asked by the Chief Minister in questions without notice. My second question later on the order will be deferred for the new Minister when he has that responsibility in place in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you, sir.
Senator Gorst, you had a point of order.
I did, sir. I hope it's a point of order. Things were inferred in the previous question in regard to cannabis, which I don't think are correct, and I wonder if you could rule, sir. Tax rates and fiscal matters are purely a domestic matter for the decision by the states of Jersey and not as intimated by a questioner in that previous question. So I wonder if you can just rule on that, sir.
I'm sorry, I can't rule on that. That's no matter what view I might take of the matter, Senator Gorst. It's not a matter on which the presiding officer can make a determination or the application of standing orders. Effectively, that's a matter to be clarified outside of the course of questioning.
So if I could get to be helpful, sir, I did allude to that in my answer. I did say, sir, maybe not forcibly enough, that tax matters were a matter for the state, sir. Yeah. So I'm sorry if I didn't make that.
No, thank you very much. But we can't continue with this. This cannot be an exchange to and froing. I was asked for a point of order. I've indicated there's nothing that the chair to rule upon, and we must now move on. Question 7, Deputy Gardner will ask of the Minister for Education. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. What actions are being undertaken to ensure that all students who have settled status or are yet to apply for settled status under Jersey EU settlement scheme are provided with clear and timely guidance relative to their status and eligibility for student funding and the necessary steps they must take to enable them to make informed decisions and advance to the higher education course of their choice?
Thank you, sir. So there are 2 elements to this question. So the eligibility criteria for students to access student finance is mainly to have 5 years residency on island. This is not subject to an individual's nationality, the passport they hold, nor whether they have settled status. Student finance provides regular presentations in schools, holding evening presentations, is present at the Higher Education Fair and Skill Show, promotes the service on social media, and all the information is on gov.je. In recent times, student finance have held virtual sessions during the COVID period. In addition, given the above, there's no reason to treat students differently as their settled status isn't taken into account when awarding student finance. However, for an informed choice regarding student visas for students who do not have settled status for study, the onus is on the student to work with the jurisdiction of study to find out all the proper information and what visas may apply. Within the UK, for students with settled status, this would guarantee Jersey students being treated the same, and this information is on gov.je. This is acknowledged by the department and is due to be promoted, and I thank the Deputy for raising this matter, and the department will be writing to all relevant students and participators to be in years 11, 12 and 13 before the cut-off date of July the 1st, and of course the sooner the better, and I'm aware of the UCAS deadlines. One of the benefits of having settled status is students not being charged international fees at most UK institutions, open brackets, there are some exceptions, close brackets. All settled status information can be found under the Custom and Immigration section at gov.je. I hope that clarifies the matter. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary question, Deputy?
Yes, please. And first of all, I'm grateful for the Minister for his comprehensive answer, and he did answer several aspects. I would like to clarify, so would the home fees would be connected to the settled status? And does it mean if the Jersey students didn't apply or didn't receive settled status before, they will not receive home fees in the UK?
Oh gosh, that what seems like quite a simple question actually is quite a complicated answer. And okay, so if a student has settled status, but they might have a non-British passport and they're not Irish, then yes, under the law changes in the UK, they should be able to apply or receive home fee status in colleges and universities that are regulated or as part of the scheme under the UK. So, for example, we know some institutions, operatoires, dance academies, for example, charge higher fees anyway, and therefore aren't subject to the home fee status at all. Other institutions charge everyone international fees, and therefore any student will be charged them. But certainly what I would say to any student who hasn't yet applied for the settled status scheme, it is definitely in their benefit to apply for it. as they would be able to take advantage from the home fee status, and the department will be writing to all relevant students in order to highlight that with them.
Well,
I think Deputy Ward has a supplementary, sir.
Yes, I've just called on Deputy Ward. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister then? Sorry, they're very complex answers. If I'm a student with a foreign passport but have all of my education in Jersey and go to university, and my home circumstances that I receive full funding, are there any obstacles to that happening in a UK university because I do not have a UK passport, or will I just continue as a Jersey student? Thank you, sir.
So, no, there is the possibility that if you don't have settled status or a British passport or an Irish passport, then you can be charged international fees as a student. Whether you come from Jersey or not is kind of irrelevant. So I would strongly encourage all students who can apply to get settled status so that they won't have an obstacle later on. And I hope that clarifies the matter. But yes, there are many variables when you look at these situations.
So supplementary, sir. So is the Minister saying it is a case-by-case basis? And if so, what's the turnaround for students to know the answer to that question? Because obviously they will be wanting to apply and know their futures. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So yes, it is in the sense it is a case-by-case basis, because the student needs to liaise with the institution in order to understand what fees they would be charged. It's not something obviously student finance do. It is something that is the responsibility of the student. So I hope that explains the situation.
Well, I have Deputy Southern, then a final supplementary. Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Yes, what measures is the Minister taking in liaison with other ministers to ensure that all those who should be applying for settled status actually do so before the timescale runs out?
Yes, thank you, sir. So the officers had already identified this, and I was speaking to the head of student finance yesterday about this, and they have highlighted it. And we were having a discussion about, okay, you know, could you target it to certain people? You know, what's the data information sharing thing? And we decided actually it's much better to send a flyer and a leaflet to every student. That way we won't miss anyone within the band I've highlighted. So that's the intention, and therefore at least, you know, all students will be covered within that banding.
Supplementary, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. That'll do fine.
All right, final supplementary, Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for the Minister. I would like double check, Minister, if the government or your department will keep track of those who are here, who are eligible, but they have only EU passports, and they applied or not applied or delayed with their settled status. So you would have this communication and connection to the Home Office.
So I don't think student finance keeps that data, and therefore I don't think it works that way, which is why I think we've decided to do a blanket communication, and therefore the information will get out there. But if the Deputy has any concerns, I'm more than happy to meet with her to structure anything where she feels more work could be targeted.
Thank you
very much. We come to question 8 that Senator Pallett will ask the Chief Minister. Senator. Senator Pallett.
Sorry, sir, I thought I pressed the button. I obviously hadn't.
No, you're there now.
Thank you. Will the Chief Minister explain why the results of the Be Heard employee engagement survey that closed on the 12th of September 2020 why they have not yet been published? And will he state what he expects the result, when he expects the results to be published, and in which government department, or should I say, which government department is responsible for collating and processing the survey data?
So the comment absent one, as Vice Chair of SEB, is taking this question, sir.
Thank you, sir. And can you hear me, sir?
Yes, thank you, Conchal. Far away.
Thank you, and I thank the Senator for his question. So the Be Heard Employee Engagement Survey provides a detailed and complex amount of information that's taken a while to analyse and assimilate, due in part to the size of our organisation, and also there's not a common single narrative that covers all our departments. The survey is coordinated by the People and Corporate Services Directorate through a survey company in the UK. So the SEB were due to be briefed later in November. However, members will probably be aware a number of other very urgent matters came up which we had to deal with. Therefore, due to these time pressures, the briefing was quite delayed. These delays included matters that were debated by the states at the end of last year, and also the ongoing increase in COVID cases over Christmas and the New Year. Important matters which concern the workforce and of course SEB. So the SEB briefing has now taken place on the 27th of January, and we've now started cascade briefings to ministers, trade union employees, and we'll be arranging a briefing for states members very shortly. It's intended that all briefings will be completed by the end of this month.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes, indeed, Senator.
Can I thank the Constable for his answer? I think you'd agree that our staff are our greatest asset, and hearing what they say is clearly important. The survey was clear in that it stated we'll act on what you say. Will the Assistant Chief Minister ensure that all comments are made available, even if it's anonymously, to states members and the public, so that we can fully understand the concerns raised by states employees and ensure they're actually being listened to?
So yes, I can give the Senator that assurance. I mean, that is entirely the purpose of doing this survey. We want to know what people think, and we are keen to act on those views as we get them. And yes, the details will be published to all states members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ferguson.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to listen to what our staff say. Is the SEB aware that some of the employees in the States have no idea of which department they're working for? It seems to change every other week. So, you know, are we really going to hear what they're thinking? I would like to think so, because, you know, we've still got bullying and so on to deal with as well.
Yeah, I thank the Senator for a question. It's difficult to respond in detail to her point, but I will take that on board. All I can tell her is that 56% of our employees responded to this survey. So, and according to the survey company, that's a much better engagement than they've seen with other organisations of a similar size in the UK. So I think in terms of the Be Heard survey, we've done everything we can to gather the views of our employees. But I do take on board the points that she's made.
Supplementary, Senator?
Well, I would like to hope that the SEB will actually make a note of following up on this, because it doesn't sound very good to me.
It does have to be a question, Senator, not a comment. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the chair of SEB how this will be different from the HR lounge bullying report? And are we not back to a Groundhog Day of consultation with staff when yet again nothing is done about the structures that put them into the positions where staff are bullied and harassed in their workplace? Thank you, sir.
Well, if I can answer the Deputy's question by saying, sir, that we are due to receive a further update from HR Lounge, a report that we commissioned last year to investigate and look into the question of bullying, which is separate from this survey. This survey is to elucidate a wide range of views from staff members on a broad range of topics relating to their employment. So it is a different survey with a different aim, and the HR Lounge survey concentrates on bullying, and it concentrates on, this one will concentrate on how we've implemented the recommendations they made the last time they visited the island.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes, Deputy.
Given that the constable has stated that he's keen to work on the report. The delay of 3 months seems to go against that keenness. What key headlines can he give to the Assembly now that he would like to see acted upon? Thank you, sir.
Well, I think in response to the first part of the Deputy's question, I have already outlined why there was a delay in publishing the results, and which we do regret. But you know, we have to prioritise matters at the SEB and deal with those that we see as the most urgent. In terms of results, I mean, it's very difficult to give detailed results because you have to contextualise that with the report. But I can say that 56% of employees responded to the survey, which is 3% better than the last time. We have an overall engagement figure, which has improved by 3% to 53%. I think rather than go into any detail, it's like all surveys, there are good parts and there are parts that aren't so good. And we will outline those in the presentation to States members when they will have an opportunity to question the findings in detail.
Well, I have Deputy Sutherland and final supplementary. Deputy Sutherland.
Thank you, sir. Is it the case that most departments within the government structure do not regularly conduct leavers surveys in order to discover where the incidence of bullying and other circumstances lead to staff turnover at the rates they do?
No, that's not the case. We have had a policy of actively encouraging managers to ensure that leavers surveys are conducted for all leavers, and there is indeed an online tool that facilitates that process.
If I may, sir, supplementary,
yes.
And how successful is that campaign being to encourage people to fill in a form, when I certainly hear of people not being able to do that?
There was an issue with teaching staff, but we are trying to address that. But I'm not sure how else I can answer the Deputy's question other than to say we're doing our best to encourage everyone to complete the survey, because clearly if there are issues with people and they're leaving because of those issues, we want to know about it so that we can make improvements.
Well, Deputy Ellis, I'm afraid I'd already called the final supplementary before you indicated a desire to ask a question. Therefore, final supplementary, Senator Pallett.
Thank you, sir. If I could just ask, how can we be sure that the survey results will present the good, the bad and the ugly, and not just be softened up in any way to hide the problems that Deputy Ward in some ways has just highlighted?
Yeah, I thank the Senator for his question. I mean, the reason, other than presenting States members with a picture of what's going on, the reason for doing this survey is so that we at the SEB can analyse the problems that exist. And we could easily, if we were trying to avoid issues, we could easily use COVID, as many other organisations have done, to not actually do this survey. Well, clearly that wasn't what we did. We have done the survey with the intention of finding out the issues, and we will be entirely transparent with those issues when the survey is presented to members. And I would encourage all members who are interested to come to the presentation and ask questions.
Thank you, sir. I thank the Constable for his answer.
Right, we come to question 9 that Deputy Ward will ask the Minister for Social Security. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise how many requests have been made in the last 5 years for the redetermination of a decision regarding income support? Of these, how many are still outstanding? How many claims, if any, have consequently been adjusted in favour of the recipient? And what is the administrative cost of this process? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Thank the Deputy for the question. Since 2016, there have been 39 formal redeterminations. Many queries on claims are resolved informally by an officer speaking with an individual concerned. Of the 39 formal redeterminations, 5 were decided in favour of the claimant. An estimate of the administrative cost of this process over the last 5 years is approximately £37,000. Thank you.
Supplementary, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister whether she feels that that is a number that's representative given the number of overpayments that exist, and whether she's pleased with that number, or feels there should be more involvement from people on income support and more able to question the determinations that have been made on income support? Thank you, sir.
So I did say we send out thousands of letters each year, let alone the last 5 years. And as I said, many people may need a bit of help to find out why their claim has gone up or down, and they phone the department, and normally that phone call resolves the issue, and then they're revised. If they're still not happy, they can go for redetermination. If they don't like the redetermination, they can go to tribunal, sir. So I think it does work.
Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. Is it not the case that whatever the source of the error that results in an overpayment, the department where that fault lies with the staff of the department making a mistake, that the department has a policy that they will chase all error, including that made by their own staff, and insist that people pay back any overpayments?
Yes, that is the policy, Deputy. As sometimes there are mistakes made. I obviously, you know, as I say, we're dealing with thousands of letters on a yearly basis. But if the department makes a mistake, it's normally noticed very quickly, and then there's a repayment asked to be paid back.
Is it also true, supplementary if I may, sir, is it also true that whereas in the past staff have negotiated a reasonable rate of repayment, that no longer happens, and they're just told you will pay that back at the following rate, which will leave you this much to live off? Is that the case?
Deputy, to answer the deputy question, that may be the case on the first letter. Many do phone up and say, I cannot afford that amount, and we negotiate a payment that the customer can afford, and that happens in a lot of cases. I think the deputy deals with people in these circumstances.
Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister tell us how often she has intervened in any of these cases regarding overpayments or complaints that the department has miscalculated what people are owed or things of that nature?
This is operated by the great staff at CLS, and I have to trust them. As I said, some determinations work in the favour of the claimant, and at the end of the day, everything that's paid out is taxpayers' money. If there's been an overpayment, it's the policy that this money is retrieved.
Supplementary, sir. Does the Minister ever use her discretion under the law in cases when it's absolutely impossible for people to repay? Thank you, sir.
It's never been brought to me under the law that I have that discretion. And as I say, if I've been asked so many times, is it my policy to get the money back? I like to get the money back so then it can do the full circle and it can go to somebody else in need. Thank you.
Senator Mezey.
Thank you, sir. Is the Minister aware of how many instances there have been where there has been an overpayment that the claimant has contested, claiming that it was the department's fault rather than theirs, which they've asked for a redetermination on, and that redetermination hasn't been successful for them, and then they have said that they would go to tribunal, and then at that point the department offers a settlement with the claimant? Is she aware of how many have got to that stage where a tribunal has been threatened and then a settlement has been offered at that point? So it's after the redetermination, but before it reaches a tribunal hearing.
So this has really wandered from the original question. I don't have those answers. I can get them, and if Deputy wants me to, I will follow up on those questions. Thank you.
Supplementary, so I think it is relevant because in my experience as a constituency representative, there have been instances where we've pushed to get redeterminations because we believed it's been the department's fault rather than the claimant's. the department hasn't caved in, we've threatened a tribunal, and then all of a sudden they cave in, and many claimants won't feel confident enough to get to that point in the first place. So would the Minister endeavour to get that information of how many settlements have been offered at the point of a tribunal being threatened, and give that information to states members?
I'm slightly confused by the question, sir. I think the Senator is saying that the department caved in at a threat of a tribunal and then made the change the amount or change the redetermination. I don't think that has ever happened. Not quite clear on what the Deputy is intimating. Thank you, sir. Senator, sorry.
Final supplementary, sir. Seem to have silence here at the moment, sir.
We've lost the bailiff.
I'm sorry, you've lost me. That's a great, but I'm back. Deputy Southern, you've asked for a supplementary question. Generally, we don't allow a second supplementary question because there's normally simply not enough time for them, and it would end up as a simple question answer. I can allow one in this occasion, though there is a little bit of time left allocated. So Deputy Southern and then Deputy Ward's final supplementary.
It's a very, very simple question, sir. Does the Minister consider that where it is shown that her department has made a mistake, that this insistence on seeing that payback of an overpayment is actually fair treatment of these clients who are very vulnerable?
Well, the Deputy's made two statements there, sir, that everyone who has had an overpayment are a vulnerable client. That's definitely not true. The fairness comes in that all the income support payments, every £80 million of it comes from the taxpayer. So I'm sorry, mistakes will be made on both sides and the repayments have to be repaid. Thank you.
Final supplementary, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister agree that it's the problem with the Social Security law that puts the onus on the claimant, fully understanding every aspect of the claim and claiming back if there's they perceive an error that leads to so many of these overpayments? And would she not agree that the process of the policy of we will reclaim overpayments regardless is putting many people into serious financial debt and trapping them in a cycle of poverty? Thank you, sir.
I think on every single letter that goes out, we remind the client that if your circumstances change at all, either you get more money in or you get less money in, contact the department straight away. We do renegotiate payments as low, it can be as low as £3 per day. And I know that some people will find that hard, but they may have had 3 weeks prior an extra £200 or £300 a week in their payments. So where's the money gone? It has to be repaid back. I can't let everybody not pay an overpayment back and then not be able to have enough money to pay on to the next person in need of the safety net. Thank you.
I'll come to question 10 that the Deputy Higgins will ask of the Attorney General. Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. With regard to major contracts, such as for the new hospital, where there is a major public interest due to the cost or impact of the project, will Her Majesty's Attorney General advise members of the legal position of whether each individual contract as a whole is confidential, or whether only certain clauses are required to be, and in what circumstances and for what time period does such information remain confidential? Thank you, sir.
No.
So, in a nutshell, the answer depends on each case, and it depends on what the parties have agreed. So I have researched practice in the United Kingdom in relation to hospital construction contracts, and I've not been able to find any examples of contracts where either the whole of the contract or parts of the contract have been published, which suggests that the practice there, where they also have freedom of information legislation which is similar to ours, is not to publish such contracts. In terms of the duration, the period of time in which restrictions on disclosure of information apply, that is covered by Article 19 of our Freedom of Information Law, which provides, in summary, that where an exception in the law has been relied on to not publish, a scheduled public authority not published the requested information, then the information must be published after 30 years. I hope that assists the Deputy to some extent in relation to his question.
Supplementary, sir.
Yes, Deputy.
I must say I'm surprised at the Attorney General's answer, and I'm sure I'm going to be coming back at him on it. Could he tell me, though, for example, is there anything to prevent the actual cash sum involved in a contract being revealed to the public? So in other words, if you have a main contractor who is being paid X money for providing the hospital, that his sum will not be disclosed, or in the case of a subcontractor, the amount of money that he's being paid for a particular activity is not disclosed to the public?
Well, so that information, as I say, I've not been able to find examples of that being published in the UK. Obviously, sir, there are issues concerning the commercial sensitivity of that information. So a contractor may insist that that sort of information is not published in relation to a particular construction project. So these are bargains that are struck between the parties, between the contractors, subcontractors, and the authority that is commissioning the project. So these are matters for negotiation between the parties, but certainly from the researches that we've done, we've not been able to find examples where that sort of information that the deputy's referred to has been published.
Final supplementary, sir.
I'm afraid that no, sometimes, sorry, Deputy, the way it works, that there's only a final supplementary if there's someone else hasn't asked a supplementary question in between. Otherwise, your last supplementary was the final supplementary.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We come to question 11. The Deputy Southern will ask the Minister for Social Security. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise what benefit payments have been available to employees who have not been able to work as a result of contracting COVID-19 or having to self-isolate to protect vulnerable family members, together with the number of any successful claims and the total overall benefit amount paid?
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, sir. And I thank the Deputy for his question. Anyone who is ill with COVID-19 and can't work is eligible for short-term incapacity allowance in the normal way and receives a standard rate of benefit. In addition, COVID-19 sickness benefit or isolation benefit was introduced last February in 2020. Isolation benefit allows people who are normally employed or self-employed to claim the standard rate of benefit via an online form if they need to self-isolate in line with public health advice as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. The benefit is available if the person is not able to work from home during the required isolation period and is not receiving their normal wages. To date, there have been 4,854 claims for isolation benefit and the total of is 1.6 million has been paid. Claimants are not required to consult with their GP or provide a medical certificate, and this has enabled a speedy access to this financial support. Thank you.
Yes, supplementary. Supplementary, Deputy Sutton.
I appear to have been muted. I just had a long conversation there in my head. Sorry, sir. I was saying I thank the Minister for her answer, but no supplementary. Thank you.
Very much indeed. We come to question 12. Senator Mezek will ask of the Chief Minister. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Further to the answer given to this question on 17th November 2020, Is the Chief Minister now in a position to publish the Housing Policy Development Board report, and does he accept its recommendations?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. Yes, the Housing Policy Development Board's final report has now been sent to the Environment, Housing and Infrastructure panel, sir, to request their comments and feedback. Following this, sir, it's going to be presented to the Council Ministers in early March and thereafter published for the consideration of States members. The report has also been provided to Andiam Homes and other social housing providers in its draft form, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That conveniently missed the last part of my question, which I think was quite clear, which asks, does he accept its recommendations?
Yes, sir. At the moment, I'm working my way through the report and reading it with interest. It is actually part of my homework to finish it next week. But ultimately, sir, it is a matter of the Council Ministers and obviously the newly appointed, what will become the Housing and Communities Minister, sir. So at this stage, sir, it is very much going to be a matter for Council Ministers in early March, sir. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Come to question, I beg your pardon, Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. Could the Chief Minister tell us why he can't disclose that to all States members rather than just the scrutiny panel, therefore letting the findings be widely known and giving members the opportunity to make comment as well?
So that will be the case once it goes up to Council Ministers and then gets published, sir. So it's purely a matter of timing, and it's purely a matter that normally, out of courtesy on things like this, we try and let the relevant scrutiny panel have the advance warning, sir, sometimes in advance or sometimes just after Council Ministers, and then it goes out to States members, sir. That's all.
Final supplementary, Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Will the Chief Minister endeavour to publish as soon as possible after the Housing Policy Development Board report comes out? And by that, I mean really soon, because it's going to be, by the looks of it, a month until it comes out, and he'll have had it for 5 months at that point. Will the Chief Minister publish a timetable for the implementation of its recommendations?
So once Council Ministers have considered it, I'm sure then, sir, that the timetable will come through, which will then determine output on as a result of the recommendations and how that then forms into policies and any legislation requirements.
Very well. We now come to question 13. The Deputy Higgins will ask the Assistant Chief Minister. Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. Will the Assistant Chief Minister outline for members the number and nature of any meetings and conversations held with the Constable of St Helier or his officers between the time the project board decided that Overdale was to be the site of the new hospital and when the public announcement was made, and what the outcomes were, if any, of those discussions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. The political oversight group for our hospital met on the 30th of September and chose Overdale as a preferred site. The Council of Ministers approved this the following day on the 1st of October, and we also advised scrutiny on the same day. The proposition P123, sir, was lodged on the 6th of October, 1 week later, sir. There were no formal meetings with the Constable during that period. However, I do communicate regularly and informally with the Constable and indeed many members, so including Deputy Higgins, on a range of issues. So I would have contacted the Conatab to inform him of the decision of the preferred site, sir, and we spoke on the phone about that once or possibly twice during that period, sir. Following that period, sir, I have spoken to the Constable on a number of occasions and attended 2 public meetings with him, with residents of the area. Thank you.
Supplementary, sir.
Yes, supplementary, Deputy, certainly.
Can the Assistant Chief Minister tell us then when consent was given to do drilling on the parish-owned land, and also what the implications were for the bowling club on top of Westmount? Thank you, sir.
No, I can't provide that information, sir. That information is with the our design and delivery partner, sir, and the parish, sir. So I don't have that information to hand. What? I'm sorry, sir. I couldn't understand the second part. Was it in relation to the bowling club? Could you just make that clear, please?
Yes. When did you communicate to the parish that the bowling club would be lost as a consequence of the adoption of the Westmount Road approach?
I can't recall, sir, the exact dates of that communication, sir, but I do remember fairly shortly after that, again, meeting with the Connétable members of the bowling club, sir, and parish officials at the town hall sometime shortly afterwards, but I can't recall the exact date.
Can the Minister please let members know the date? Thank you.
Well,
thank you.
Up to question 14, the Deputy Gardener will ask of the Chief Minister. Deputy Gardener.
Thank you, sir. And will the Chief Minister provide the Assembly with an update on the progress of the office accommodation project, please?
Yes, there will be a State Members briefing for all members is scheduled actually for later this week. In fact, I think members have now started responding to the diary of the meeting request. The Deputy in her capacity as Chair of PAC was given a confidential briefing on the 3rd of February alongside the members of a committee, members of the Corporate Service Scrutiny Panel and the OneGov Review Panel, and I believe reference was made to giving members a briefing during that briefing, sir. And as I said, the timing is scheduled for the end of this week. Thanks, sir.
Apologies, sir. I don't think it was an answer. I have received private briefing and I have submitted this question prior any other private briefings to the members were arranged. My question is public, and whatever can be updated done in the public domain, I would like to ask to do this.
I'm sorry, sir, I obviously misinterpreted the question. The question was, will I be providing the Assembly with an update on the progress of the office accommodation project? And the answer, sir, is yes, we will be on Friday, sir.
Well, Senator Messick.
Thank you, sir. Obviously, we don't know what the content of that update will be, but part of the rationale for having an office accommodation project is to make better use of government-owned sites and free up other sites so that they can have more better economic uses. Is the Chief Minister in a position of being able to tell whether enough progress has been made on the office accommodation project to start making real moves in allocating sites for affordable housing?
So I think the short answer on that is the crucial point before we can actually start saying yes, this site can be released on such and such a date, and obviously then and how it gets released and what it'll be used for, is very much making sure we've got the location nailed down, signed up from a contractual point of view, and then moving forward. And that's what I want to ensure we're giving briefings to members on, as I said, on Friday. But please, when I say rest assured, there was no one more keen than for me to see this progressed. A, for the reasons that the Senator has outlined, because that is then the short to medium, well, let's say medium term, sir, of releasing those sites. That's about supplying, generating the further supply that we all know we need, but also, sir, because of the sheer benefits that come through, A, from the way of the organisation working, but fundamentally for the taxpayer, A, of the roughly £7 million a year it will save, and B, sir, in the costs that it will avoid, because if we do nothing, sir, it's around £30 million more than if we than what we're proposing, sir. So there is savings to the taxpayer, benefits for the organisation, and also, sir, benefits in achieving supply on brownfield sites to our much needed housing supply that we need. So,
supplementary question, Senator?
No, thank you, sir.
Final supplementary, Deputy Gardner.
All public and ourselves, we've seen R4 being launched without any consultation and update for the states members. I assume there will be new standing order lodged pretty shortly. My question is, how are you taking in consideration changing working practice due to the COVID into the new office accommodation, and if it's right time to press with the OneGov new office accommodation when we don't know how the working practices will be after COVID will go?
Sir, I can't recall if that was in the briefing to PAC, etc. last week, but certainly, sir, the whole office accommodation, in fact, I'm fairly certain it was, but in the whole office accommodation strategy, sir, it has been reviewed taking account of COVID, sir, and the project still remains absolutely valid in the light of the COVID experience, sir. And frankly, if we wish to go down the further delay, I make the point it was delayed 10 years ago. We've made no progress on it, and up to basically the last 18 months, 2 years. And if the decision is to delay it further, then, sir, as I said, 10 years ago, I think the savings were 3 to 4 million a year. It's now 7 million a year. That's excluding productivity. Obviously, 10 years, sir, with productivity, I used to reckon on about £10 million a year savings at least. Therefore, 10 times 10, it's cost us £100 million so far by not doing it. All that happens there is the estate will continue to fall into further disrepair. We won't release the brownfield sites, and we won't achieve moving the whole thing forward. So from that perspective, sir, we've reviewed it for COVID. It's still valid, and I really do think we need to be moving this forward, sir. Thank you.
Very much, Chief Minister. We come to question 15. The Deputy Southern will ask for the Minister for Health and Social Services. Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. In the light of recent reports that healthcare workers surrounded by coughing patients are at greater risk of contracting COVID-19 than first thought, is it the Minister's assessment that healthcare staff are provided with an appropriately high level of PPE, including FFP3 respirator masks, that's filtering face piece respirator masks, and will he commit to providing frontline staff in non-intensive hospital areas, GP surgeries and care homes with such masks?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. PPE is provided by the government for relevant staff groups according to established Public Health England guidance upon which local guidance is based.
Sir, I can hardly understand what the Minister is saying. There's interference.
Yes. I wonder if you can find a way of speaking slightly more loudly or closer to the microphone or something like that, Minister, because it's quite difficult to hear you. If you could start your answer again, that would be helpful, I think.
Yes, I'm sorry, sir. I hope this will be more clearer.
There's an echo, sir. There's an echo, severe echo.
Well, I wonder if I could ask all members not speaking to turn off their microphones if they haven't already done so. It could be my microphone. That hasn't been a problem up to now. I shall mute it for the time being. If you'd like to speak, Mr.
PPE is provided by the government for relevant staff groups according to Public Health England guidance, upon which our local guidance is based. And this guidance does not currently advise the use of FFP3 masks in all healthcare settings. Protection, sir, against COVID-19 needs to be multi-layered and proportionate. PPE is just one way of protecting staff at work. Regular COVID screening of patients and staff, hand washing, social distancing, training, workplace cleaning practices, ventilation and risk assessments of staff health also play an important role in infection prevention and control and managing the safety of staff and patients. And in addition, sir, of course, all frontline staff have now been offered the COVID vaccination. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary, yes, indeed.
Yes. Is the Minister aware that those who work without these masks and in contact with COVID-19 patients are 4 times more likely to contract COVID-19 themselves than those operating with these masks? Is that factor not a consideration for him when he considers the balance of a little more expense and having people properly protected, those working in the non-intensive areas where they become exposed to COVID and are acquiring it?
Sir, may I invite the Deputy to share his research with me and the infection control team, and we can look into the assertion he makes, and we can see whether it has been taken into account by Public Health England guidance, how Public Health England may have answered it if the research he's aware of is validated. And we are anxious at all times, sir, to adopt the best practices, which is why we follow the appropriate Public Health England guidance. At the present time, sir, the risk assessments have been made in conjunction with staff and those representing them, and staff have appropriate PPE. But again, I invite the Deputy, if he has research, to share that with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. So then, Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. I've sent to the Minister and others information regarding the use of ultraviolet in air conditioning systems and ventilation systems, heating systems, etc., which can kill the COVID virus as well as others. Can he tell members whether any research has been conducted by his officers into this, because it would minimize the spread of the virus into not only intensive care areas, but other areas of the hospital? And I might add also schools, which may enable things to get back together much earlier. Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So the question is rather outside the scope of the initial question, which was on the wearing of masks. So I have not been able to ask that of officers specifically, though ventilation is clearly something that is recommended in Public Health England guidance, and it may be that there is further research and a response from Public Health England on the research the Deputy has referred to, and I will seek out any response from our local officers, sir. Thank you.
Very much. Supplementary, Deputy Higgins. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, what has he learnt from the distribution of PPE during this pandemic, or does he reflect the attitude of the Chief Minister, that even with hindsight he would not have done anything differently? Thank you, sir.
So there is always learning to be gained, and there was difficulty in obtaining PPE in the first months of the pandemic because of a worldwide shortage. So I think the lesson to us is that we must ensure that the island is sufficiently prepared for emergencies of this nature should they occur in the future. And that means not just services, but we must also try and ensure that the private establishments such as care homes have a means of having an adequate supply and stock of PPE. We work closely with care homes, even closer since the pandemic has arisen, that we combine together and ensure that PPE is fully distributed as necessary. And I hope that combined working will continue into the future. Thank you, sir.
The supplementary, sir?
Yes, Deputy.
Can I take from that that one of the things the Minister would have done differently is to supply PPE more quickly, more effectively, and on a wider scale to care workers and the hospital staff and those on the front line, sir? Thank you.
Yes, sir. I think the pandemic showed us that we need a coordinated island response to emergencies of this nature, in which government and the private sector play their part, supporting each other.
Very well, I have a question from Deputy Pamplin, then final supplementary, Deputy Sullivan. Deputy Pamplin.
Thank you, sir. On the issue of PPE, as the Minister's outlined the new provision, will he arrange and set up a meeting with our Health and Social Services Scrutiny Panel to meet socially distanced, of course, at the new arrangement centre at the Five Oaks, the original building, so we can see the changes and better understand what the Minister is saying in his answers. Thank you, sir.
Yes, happy to facilitate that, sir. I think we had tried, was it before Christmas now, and it was the case that panel members and my team also were just not available because of the busyness of our schedules, but we can pick that up once again and ensure that visit takes place socially distanced. Thank you, sir.
Very well. A final supplementary, Deputy Southern.
If I may, sir, yes, as far as I understand, the information on the face masks is in the public domain, but I shall have a look around it and certainly pass on any information I find to the Minister. Thank you.
I'm grateful, sir.
Sir, you're still on mute, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Pamplin has deferred question 16. We therefore come on to question 17. The Connaught Tower St Helier will ask the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture. On the top.
Thank you, sir. In the light of recently submitted development plans, will the Minister publish, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong question, that's not mine. What assurances, if any, can the Minister give that there will be no net loss of public amenity space, including publicly accessible grassed areas, nor any loss of trees arising from the current planning application P 2020-1263 for Springfield Park?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Raymond will take this question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Connaught Tower. I think I have to go back. I think I have to go back a little just to explain what the situation is. As you know, there was a planning application passed on the 6th of December last year at Springfield Stadium. This was to get 440 square metres of grassed area were to be replaced by AstroTurf to create spectator areas behind goal at the south side of the stadium and behind the goal at the north side of the stadium. This was to be carried out to accommodate the increased number of football supporters, but it was also carried out for health and safety and to enable Jersey Boars FC to continue to progress through the National League system. To continue to play in this league, the ground needs to comply with the requirements for a minimum audience of 4,000. Even though the application was approved, I can assure you it is not certain whether we will be proceeding, as this is partly dependent on a fiscal bid at another facility. The other thing I will say is that you're replacing grass by synthetic material. The one area that I can't be sure on, and this is where you want your assurances, is the trees, but there hasn't been a complete programme of what we're intending to do. As you know, there is no other facility in the island that can meet the ground grading requirements of the FA. And knowing a little about this myself, I was a director of a football club also that was trying to get into the conference. You have to assume that you win the league every year for many years. So what I can say, this is going to be an ongoing situation. I can give certain assurances, but I can't give them to you all, the main one being the trees. But what I can say is that I think it's a way down the line before we make any changes to the present football area, known as Springfield, and further say that this is an area that, as far as I'm concerned, will always be a green site in the centre of St Helier and used by the local community, and whatever capacity I might be involved in, you would have my total support in achieving this. Thank you, sir.
Well, supplementary, Connaught.
Thank you. So would the Assistant Minister undertake, if there is to be a loss of public accessible amenity space, to replace it in the immediate area? There are, of course, other parts of Springfield Park that could be allocated for public amenity space, which are currently used for car parking. And the department also has the area of car parking in the centre of the gyratory, which is a decent sized area, which is a cash cow to provide income for the department, currently used for at-grade parking. will the Minister undertake to consider whether there are opportunities there to replace any loss of trees and green space? Thank you, sir.
I can certainly continue with that, because as you probably know, and I desperately want to keep you involved in all the negotiations going on. As you know, we're trying to make Springfield both a community centre as well as a sports centre. So all those discussions that you've had with me and the suggestions you have made, I'm more than happy to take them on board.
Well, Senator Mezek.
And thank you, sir. I checked the planning website to see what this was about, and what has been submitted appears quite unclear to me what exactly is being proposed to happen there. So can I ask the Assistant Minister if he will endeavour to provide a greater level of detail to the local representatives of that area, so that they can have confidence that green space is not going to be encroached upon, as has been the case previously in the Springfield area, where that green space is already in very short supply?
Thank you very much, Senator. I'm totally behind you on this, and I would be more than happy to meet up, go through exactly what is intended and how we mean to go ahead. And your help in this part would be considerably very much expected.
Supplementary, Senator?
No, thank you, sir. I thank the Assistant Minister for his answer and look forward to that invitation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Partly, I would like to agree with Senator Mezek and ask for that consultation and involvement within the Deputy, but also, sir, ask him to consider the effect on traffic flow and the possible increase in traffic, particularly with Springfield School being so close by and them having serious problems with safety outside of the school and a real inertia from the department that seems to be dealing with that. So will he commit to ensuring that all of the impacts of these changes will be considered before anything is proceeded with and full consultation is undertaken? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. At the bottom of my notes, I'd written that in most of these cases where we have this situation, traffic flow, car parking is most the essential thing. The other thing is, you appreciate that if you have bigger attendances, we will have a traffic flow problem. So I would certainly consider it, especially the school being just around the corner, and I have no hesitation in making sure that we make everything work with your assistance. Thank you.
Supplementary question, Deputy Ward?
No, thank you, sir.
Final supplementary, Connacht Arbison Hellier.
Thank you, sir. Is the Assistant Minister aware that last time when green space was threatened at Springfield by the installation of the artificial pitch, I brought a proposition to the States to make sure that there was no net loss of green space, and his predecessor, former Deputy Patrick Ryan, was willing to make sure that there wasn't a loss of space and to adjust the plans to prevent the matter requiring a States debate. So will the Assistant Minister agree that it would be far better to guarantee no loss of space or trees to avoid this matter having to be debated by the States? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Connacht. I would be delighted to guarantee it. The only thing is that I just need to, and I think with your help, to get the overall plan of what we're trying to do, and then hopefully we can come to some arrangement. But I would certainly guarantee there will be no loss of space. As I say, the one thing is that's slightly worrying me is the trees, and it would be silly of me to guarantee it if we have to adapt to sort the trees out. But we've been more than happy, because I can't see the point of having a debate when we're all on the same side. So I would take your views and look forward to meeting up with you and discussing it with pleasure.
Well, we come to question 18 that Senator Mezek will ask of the Chief Minister. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Will the Chief Minister advise whether the government remains committed to extending the Millennium Town Park over the gasworks site, and what support, if any, will be provided to Andiam Homes to ensure their plans to achieve this remain viable?
Chief Minister.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we do remain committed to the decision of the Assembly from January 2018, which requested Andiam Homes, subject to planning permission, to make an extension of the Millennium Town Park, providing additional parking and homes. Obviously, the government's previously supported Andium Homes via a £250 million bond, and I'm confident the new position of Minister for Housing and Communities will allow for additional political focus to be directed to projects such as this, and the Minister will be expected to work closely with Andium. Now, I understand, sir, the current proposal by Andium form part of an ongoing planning application. Obviously, sir, it is important a due process is respected and it is mindful of the heritage considerations. And at this stage, sir, it's a little bit too early to tell what, if any, support or any further support is required by Andium. But in much the same way that the heritage considerations were considered when the current Millennium Town Park was constructed, I, or perhaps more appropriately the Treasury and Resources Minister as the guarantor, would certainly welcome further dialogue with Andium on this matter, and that is being followed up, sir. Thank you.
Supplementary.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, sir, and I welcome the Chief Minister's answer there. Would he agree that a worst case scenario, which is that the plans become unviable because of those heritage concerns that he has rightly raised, and the scheme were to be abandoned and a previous planning application were to be reinstated that involved no extra green space and piling in of unaffordable homes onto that site, must not be allowed to happen? And will he guarantee that the Assembly and the residents of that part of St Helier that they can count on the support of the government to ensure that that doesn't happen and that we will have an extension of the Millennium Park one way or another?
So I'm always very cautious about giving guarantees at 20 seconds notice. But what I will say, sir, is that the decision of the Assembly from January 2018 was approved, it was made, and on that basis, sir, I see no reason why the government shouldn't be supporting that, which would therefore obviously include the extension to the Millennium Town Park. What I do want to understand, sir, is what the financial considerations are, sir. Obviously, sir, for any planning development, including the one he's just referred to, they will also have to take account of the heritage sensitivity of the site, sir. Thank
you. Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. I've mentioned this to the Chief Minister already, but should not the states, as a matter of urgency, involve the archaeological section to do radar surveys of the site and perhaps do other excavations of the site to determine the extent of the heritage aspects, in other words, the dolmen, where they're located, and other finds, because that information will be vital in determining, one, the planning application, and two, whether it can be incorporated within the scheme, as they are done in cities like Liverpool, Lincoln, and London, where they can be, for example, used in the underground car park, so people can preserve them, see them, but at the same time not prevent the scheme going ahead. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. I think the short answer, personally, sir, I do support the kind of work that the Deputy refers to. I would be very interested to know what was underneath there, sir. I do have to caveat that personal position, understanding what the financial consequences are, sir, and actually is it the right approach from the heritage perspective. And the reason I put it that way, sir, we had a preliminary discussion with heritage on this matter, and I believe one of the suggestions at the moment is letting the planning process run. But it is something, sir, I am having some very, very preliminary conversations on, sir, and obviously we'll be guided by the professional advice on it. But on a personal perspective, I am not in disagreement with what the Deputy has referred to, sir.
Supplementary, Deputy Higgins.
No, sir. I thank the Chief Minister for his answer.
Thank you, sir. With a previous hat of having developed the original town park, is the Minister cognizant of the pollution beneath the area of the old gas works, notwithstanding the Jersey heritage aspects? Thank you, sir.
Sir, in a former life, to catch a certain phrase that used by one of our unfortunately late members, sir, I not only smelt and watched the whole works when I think it was the Grand Marché development took place, which certainly brought to light very physically, sir, the level of pollution that is in place down there, sir. Whatever development takes place down there, will have to be mindful of the contamination and the pollution on that site. But equally, sir, as we are aware, it is high. I think it's the highest level of protection granted for that site due to the nature or potential nature of the heritage that is down there, sir. And I think so the Conatab is absolutely correct. I rather assume that was taken into account when those planning applications were put in place, sir.
I thank the Minister, sir.
Final supplementary, Senator Messick.
No, thank you, sir.
Well, we come now to question 19 that Deputy Ward will ask the Minister for Infrastructure. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, will the Minister state the volume in litres of RD100 renewable diesel that has been imported to the island in 2021 to date, and also state the total amount of this fuel imported and sold during 2020? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. The second generation renewable diesel supplier has imported nearly 1,750,000 litres in 2020 to Jersey, selling around 100,000 litres. In 2021, no further fuel has been imported to date. Thanks, sir.
Supplementary, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Given the opposition to removing of duty was due to the possible massive increase in fuel being imported, can I ask the Minister why this has not happened, and would he rethink the removal of duty on this fuel, because is that not the obstacle to it being used more thoroughly on the island? Thank you, sir.
It's one of the obstacles, sir, but of course the more popular the biofuel becomes, the cheaper it will become. But obviously there is a price difference at the moment. I believe it's around 20p per litre, but this hopefully will come down in the not too distant future. As I say, there's been a glitch obviously with COVID. There's been less uptake of fuels generally, but you know, I would like to thank the supplier for allowing this information to be made public, as in normal circumstances it would be commercially confidential. So I thank them for that. But as I say, moving forward, we hope that prices will come down in the not too distant future, sir.
Supplementary, sir?
I thought that was the supplementary, Deputy.
I thought that was the original question, sir.
Right, well, supplementary question then, of course.
Thank you, sir. I'm somewhat disappointed with the Minister's response. And can I ask him whether he understands the need for government to take an initial action in removing of duty or lowering duty to increase the popularity of this fuel? Because is it not government that is acting as the blockage to the development of a renewable fuel on the island, thus having a direct impact on emission levels? Thank you, sir.
Not necessarily, sir. It's I say it's work in progress. We are hopefully importing more of it. We've got our own fleet are using the RD100. We have, I believe, 6 or 7 vehicles that we are using to test the new fuels, all the way from cars, vans, lorries to big equipment. Reports back so far state that it's perfectly good fuel, and it's biofuel, and there's no drop in performance whatsoever. So we're delighted with that. We hopefully have Liberty Bus using it in the not too distant future. I believe they have trialled it, but with certain vehicles, there is the matter of getting the manufacturer's permission. Nothing wrong with the fuel whatsoever, but it's a warranty thing that just needs to be authorized by the manufacturers so the warranty continues. But it is something I want to progress. I'd like to see more and more people using RD100 and equivalent biofuels, but this does take time to get underway. Obviously, taxation is one way of doing it, and that's something that's being looked at, sir.
All right, Deputy Sutherland.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister not accept that it is part of the role of government to lead the way in environmental issues? And does he not accept that until the government does lead the way and produce some concrete results, we are unlikely to meet our targets, no matter how fine they sound?
Absolutely. So this is a conversation that we are having at the moment, whether subsidies can be brought in and a source of funding. So this is something that is being looked at by the department.
I thought the question, sir, supplementary, if I may, sir, I thought the question was the removal of extra duties rather than subsidising.
Well, there is no extra duties as such. There is just the duty. So it's very difficult to make something artificially cheaper, if you like, by removing duty from one fuel and not another. So we have to be very careful how we do this. But this is something the department is looking at.
Well, final supplementary, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Yes. So does the Minister not understand that this fuel will become cheaper only if the more is used and imported? But the obstacle to that being imported and becoming cheaper, one of the main obstacles is the level of duty, and it's actually 40 or 50p a litre more expensive. Therefore, the government has an opportunity to remove that obstacle, thus import more, thus making it cheaper in the long run. Can the Minister say that he's foresighted enough to take this action? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, I got it the first time, sir, but this is something that is being worked on, and it's not going to happen overnight. But we're doing our best. We're using all the levers that we have available to encourage the use of biofuels and reduce our carbon footprint, sir.
Very well. There are further 2 questions listed, but there is more than enough time available to them. Is the adjournment proposed, however? It's the appropriate time for me to ask that.
Yes, sir.
Adjournment is proposed. Very well. The Assembly stands adjourned and will be reconvened at 2:15. Thank you.